stand by for the race and the starting lineup for the Talladega 500.
Thanks, Mike. Well, in keeping with the recognition that automobile racing is receiving this year, this automobile, the number 43 Plymouth, that Richard Petty drove to an unprecedented 200th victory in the July 4th race at Daytona Beach, has been asked for by the Smithsonian Institution. It will hang alongside the plane that Charles Lindbergh crossed the Atlantic in. Richard, what do you feel about your car going in the Smithsonian?
Well, I'll tell you, it's just going to be a piece of history, and from that standpoint, it's going to be a super deal for us in racing also.
Good luck today.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Richard Petty, a piece of history, starting up this number 43 for its last race before it goes in the repository of American history in Washington, D.C., the Smithsonian Institute. Back to you, Ken.
And the man driving a piece of history, winner of 200 Grand National races in his illustrious career, going for his second win in this, the Talladega 500. 2.6-mile track, high bank, 33 degrees. On both ends, 18 degrees, just a tad higher than Daytona. Greg Sachs having a problem here. The New York driver out of the modified ranks, Greg Sachs, having problems. Hood is up on car number 51.
Ken, this is a disappointing situation for a driver when he tries to fire the car and it won't go. Of course, hopefully they will be able to get him fired up and get him on out in the race.
Here are the cars that did not qualify for this running of the Talladega 500. Dal McCoward's car, Rick Wilson, Blackie Wengren from up in Minnesota, Tommy Gale, the Sonny King car, J.D. McDuffie had trouble here, and Rick Newsom blew an engine before qualifying. Of course, Benny Parsons had a terrible accident in turn number 4, eliminating their Superspeedway car, the Johnny Hayes team. Field rolling out. 188 laps. There's Sachs' car being pushed as they try to fire it, having their problems. 2 laps, and they will turn them loose today here at the Alabama International Motor Speedway, where we have seen so many upsets, so many surprises in past years. Field rolling. 1 car having trouble. We'll be back for the start of the Talladega 500 live on CBS in a moment. You are aboard Richard Petty's car, number 43, starting from the 11th position in today's race. How about it on the start, Richard Petty? What do you intend to make for a maneuver to catch up with those guys in front?
Well, hang on, see how everybody goes. Once we get straight away, then we'll try to do a little bit of racing.
Richard, are you going to have to do a lot of drafting today?
You break it up pretty bad. You're not coming through too good with me.
The question is, are you going to have to do a lot of drafting today out here, Richard?
Don't have to do a whole lot of drafting. My car's really not running that good, so if I'm able to keep up, it's going to be strictly in a draft.
Good luck to you today, and a blessing for Richard Petty that he comes through with a safe and successful race. And now you're inside Bill Elliott's car, number 9, on the outside of the front row. This incredible team out of Georgia, family operation. Remember his dad and his brothers with him in Victory Lane when we were last with you on CBS. Here he is outside in the front row. Just to his left is Cale Yarborough. Now, there's no audio from him today. We had a camera prepared for Benny Parsons, and when he tagged the wall at 190 miles per hour, the camera came back, but the audio didn't, Ned.
Ken, Richard Petty, talking about the drafting a moment ago, said his car wasn't running quite up to par. You'd have to do a lot of drafting. We saw some cars in the late practice yesterday that were 6-7 miles an hour off the pace of Cale Yarborough's qualifying, and they were able to run 202 miles an hour.
Jeff Bodine is carrying our third camera. He's starting back in 28th position. And there you are. We don't have a moment to talk to him as they're coming down to the start in the trioval. Remember, start-finish line some 400 feet beyond it. There you see the safety car coming in. The crowd cheering them down for a start. Responsive congregation here in Alabama to see another one of these great spectacles in the most competitive automobile racing in the world. Coming to the line, you're with Bill Elliott coming down. There you see Cale Yarborough on the inside, edging the familiar Harry Ranier car out in front of there, over the line and underway. 188 laps in the 16th annual, near $500,000 Talladega 500. Yarborough for the lead in the early going.
It shows how strong the engine is that car, Ken. On the acceleration, he just moved right away from Bill Elliott. Dale Earnhardt in a Chevrolet follows right on the back bumper off Cale Yarborough.
Greg Sachs was ready to fire, and he came into the event. Back straightaway, first time. And there's that number 3. That is Earnhardt. last year's winner, trying to be the first man to win 2 in a row, and Tommy Ellis out of Virginia, moving up in there, going for second place.
Had to be a great moment for him as he drafted by Cale Yarborough.
Fourth place now. Remember, Tommy Ellis, relative newcomer, seen most of his Grand National experience all this year. But don't forget, he had a fourth place finish in the National 500 at Charlotte a few years back. Ellis now in second place. Earnhardt trying to be the first man to win this race. Back-to-back 2 years in a row. In turn number 2, Ellis in the second spot, trying to be one of those dark horses to pull it out. Will it be a different winner this year?
About 15 cars have pulled away from the balance of the pack back there, Ken, but these cars are so evenly matched. We see Petty coming up on the inside, right behind Ron Bouchard.
Into 6, trying for 5th. Tremendous shuffle of automobiles down into turn number 3. Earnhardt stays on the point. And Tommy Ellis, the man they used to call Terrible Tommy, just an incredible racer, holding on, the former national champion. He could be the scourge of Grand National racing, 36 years old, the new team. We'll tell you more about it as the day progresses. Here he comes. 3 wide, down to the tri-oval, across the line. That staccato roar of automobiles as they snap by our high-speed camera here.
Earnhardt was very quick to move to the lead. There's 5 bonus points, and here goes
Bill Elliott
on the inside of Tommy Ellis. But those 5 bonus points with Earnhardt leading them going into this race, Ken, could be very important.
Cale Yarborough also moving by on the high side as Ellis gets right back in there again. Now, Ellis is driving for the same team that won this race with Lenny Pond a few years ago, and he is showing just absolute determination. For a guy who cut his teeth against Sonny Hutchins and the likes of those short trackers from Virginia, look at how Ellis is performing here today as he pulls up into second spot and keeps Cale Yarborough back in third.
He has to give great hope to the short track racers around the country, Ken. Many of them have raced with this fella on the Saturday nights, and now they see him up here running with the best in the world, and they say, hey, maybe it's not as hard as we think.
Now note that Ron Bouchard is getting into it as well. Car number 47 with a new crew chief here for today's race. A new look on the BB team. And Ron Bouchard, who won it in 1981 and had 3 abreast finish. Back straightaway, here comes Cale. He goes after the number 3 car of Earnhardt, the yellow and blue car. Earnhardt, the Richard Childress Chevrolet, getting past to turn number 3. Bottom of the track, Cale Yarborough in front and Terry Labonte. Number 44, the Billy Hagan entry. That car chaperoned to the shop by Dale Inman, now into second place and looking very stout through all the qualifying and practice period thus far.
And the car has also looked very strong in recent races. He's been in the picture of the photo finishes in several of the events here at Talladega. He knows how to drive this racetrack. Dale Inman knows how to set the car up to make it go fast.
4 laps have been complete. Just an explosive start to this event as they swap the lead back and forth. Remember, the record. Now here's Bodine cutting through cars. That is Kyle Petty in the number 7 car, Ricky Rudd in the 15, and A.J. Foyt in 14, the red car in the backstretch. Here comes Kyle Petty down the inside. Big problems with that team these days. More about that story later in today's live coverage of the Talladega 500. Back with the leaders another time. Yarborough deployed first in the second spot. Labonte as they come out of turn number 4. Earnhardt is still maintaining third. Coming around to complete 5 laps into the tri-oval.
And Buddy Baker has moved up there in 4th place. He is one of the big winners here at Talladega. He loves this racetrack and the high speeds they run here.
Baker is in 4th, and it's 5 car lengths back. In 5th is Ron Bouchard, and Ellis has fallen to 6th. But he's not falling much further back than that. And now Bouchard is closing up. You're back with Bill Elliott as he skims through traffic another time. Bill Elliott, who won at Riverside, California, the last race of last year, and won at Michigan this year. Here he is right behind Tommy Ellis, darting down into turn number 3, up on the 33-degree banking. Pulls about a G and a half right here.
Ken, there's lots of racing room. You can see Ellis move to the inside of the track where Bill Elliott is staying high, along with Cale Yarborough in the car number 28.
Look at Ellis get in there and shuffle it with these fellas. That's the car number 4 that Ellis is in on the inside.
It's interesting how we see those cars just bobbling a little bit. It's almost impossible to keep the cars in a straight line when they're running in a draft. They're running against the wall of air right on each side.
Now they're running at just about 200 miles an hour, and you're riding right around this track with Bill Elliott at this incredible speed, inches apart. Bodine, who started in the 28th position, is now up to 19. Bodine at number 28 is on the charge and cutting through traffic. Now you're back with Richard Petty. They're maybe a windshield crack in the bottom of Richard Petty's windshield. Car number 43.
Yes, it does look there is some crack there again, and that could be trouble for him later on. There's a tremendous amount of pressure on the windshield at the speeds they run here.
As they come down, it might be part of the coating they put on the windshield, but it sure looked like a crack. Back in front goes car number 3. It is Children, or rather the Childress car with Earnhardt aboard in that front running position. They've now completed 7 laps, working lap number 8, and the shuffle continues. You see those cars take a set and then move over 3 or 4 feet, just as if someone lifted them up and sent them over.
The air turbulation will cause that. Now here's Buddy Baker going for the lead. He's the Charger, puts his board right out front around Dale Earnhardt.
Down to the inside, Baker, another previous winner of this event, goes to the lead. It's Baker out in front. Earnhardt stays in second, and the third place car is that number 44, the white and blue colors, Terry Labonte. But Bouchard is on the inside and trying to close. As they come to the tri-oval, it's Bouchard on the bottom of the track. He wants a peek at first place.
He has a new crew chief on his car, Wayne Bumgarner, who was with the Nygaard team that Bobby Allison drives for, is now the crew chief on the car number 47, and we have seen the results. Just in the last 2 weeks, he has really made the car, helped put it up front.
That's the blue car on the bottom side fighting for third right now. The man who won it in 81, and he's falling back just a bit to Labonte, and coming back is Cale Yarborough to fourth. Bouchard falling to fifth. Let's get a word from Benny Parsons for just a moment. Your opinion of these first 8-9 laps.
I tell you what, the first 15 cars did break away from the back cars, but the second pack of 10 cars caught up again. We now have a 25-car draft. And as you see the Ron Bouchards and Bill Elliott's, when they try to go to the inside of the racetrack, they have lots of problems. That is not the fast way around right now.
And why?
Well, because as you come off the turns, the car does not accelerate. You bog the car down, or as you come up out of the turn, it takes a lot of horsepower. And up how the racetrack, you don't use as much horsepower.
And last year, we had a record 75 lead changes in this race. In the first 9 laps, there have already been 6 lead changes.
Down they come in the front straightaway. Out in front goes Labonte in the 44. Labonte trying for that lead, and back on the outside again comes number 3, Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt right back there in that Richard Childress car. What a job that Childress crew has done this year.
He is the former driver himself, but he knows what it takes to make a fast race car. When he was driving, he didn't have the sponsorship that Buck's behind him to help him run in a first-class manner. He has that now and is proving his ability.
Just fantastic racing, wouldn't you agree, Benny Parsons?
It is. It's great racing. I'm impressed. I'd rather see a race like this from up here than down inside the car. It's
really?
too nerve-wracking.
Benny, sometimes we'll see a car, we see Labonte down on the inside, which, as you say, is not the place to be, because we're going to see Elliott pull right up on the outside of it in the draft of Cale Yarborough. But it looks like when we see one just zip by another one that he generated 100 horsepower. It looks easy, but it really isn't.
It really is not that easy. You've got to have everything just right to go by with that surge of speed, man.
Down to the inside, Bouchard knocking off 1, knocking off 2. The number 47 car getting by Elliott, pulling up again, trying to move in, and losing some ground another time as they come through the tri-oval. Down to the start-finish line.
It's interesting how we saw him pull up there. He had the momentum going. He had picked up the draft of cars in front of him, but once he got up there to them, hit that wall of air, then we saw him start going backwards. He's down on the inside once again, but it's awfully tough to make a strong run from that.
From Richard Petty's car, looking out the back, and right behind him comes Allison. That is Allison right there, and on the inside you see one of the Junior Johnson cars, Neil Bonnett. Last lap on the leaders was turned at 198.2. 198.2. We are now working the 12th lap.
Well, A.J. Foyt's not running too well at this point, Ken. He's back in 25th position, running by himself on the racetrack, an indication that his car is not handling when he gets into heavy traffic.
Bill Elliott is running in 5th. Richard Petty pulls himself up into the 6th position. Let's go to Chris Economaki with the story on pit road.
I'm with Glenn Wood, who's Buddy Baker's car. Glenn, some of the laps have been over 200 miles an hour. It's early in the race. Can these engines stand this for 500 miles?
Well, they're geared tall enough to stand it, should be. They'll turn in the neighborhood of 75 to 7,800, and they'll be up and down a little bit, but the speed should be in the range with the gear.
You're not worried about it?
No.
Okay, 200 miles an hour, just another day at the races. Back to you, Ken.
Ken, when he said that he had a tall enough gear, that means he has a high gear ratio. Benny, approximately what do they run in these cars now?
Well, the cars today will be running a 3.15 to 1 or a 3.25, which means that the engine turns 3.25 times to the rear wheel turning once.
And that, in comparison to a street car, is about the same ratio?
About the same as a street car, right. Some of the street cars today have 2.7s and 2.8s, but 10 years ago.
First 10 laps run at a record 197.443 miles an hour. Back with more live coverage of the Talladega 500 after this word from your local station. We're back with you live here on CBS for Flag to Flag coverage of the 16th annual Talladega 500. We have 25 cars running in the lead draft. And at this moment, car number 3 is out in front. It is Dale Earnhardt trying to be the first man in history to win this race 2 years back-to-back. We are in the 16th of the 188 laps. Buddy Baker is in second. Let's get a quick report from Mike Joy.
I'm with Buddy Parrott, Richard Petty's crew chief, and looking through the in-car camera, Buddy, it looks like that windshield might be cracked.
Well, this morning we put a protective coating on the inside of the windshield just to make sure that in case anything flew up and cracked. Okay.
We have a caution on the track for car number 87. In trouble is Randy Baker, the half-brother of Buddy Baker, having a problem, and you see him running very slowly down the back straightaway, and the first caution comes out as the field completes 16 laps.
Ken, he's only in his, I believe it's his 3rd Grand National race. As you mentioned, he's the younger brother of Buddy Baker, the son of Hall of Fame member Buck Baker. That's the car number, 87, that Buck Baker ran. And Buck says that this fella has at least as much talent as Buddy Baker has, or perhaps even more. He's very high on this young man. Had a very good qualifying run here at over 195 miles an hour.
The Buick of Randy Baker brings out the first caution flag of the day. The field now working in the 17th lap. Mike Joy giving us that report that apparently it was the coating and not a crack in the windshield on car number 43. You can see the safety car exiting pit road.
I suppose we'll see a lot of the cars come into the pits here. They've run almost a half of a pit stop, almost 50 miles, in other words.
Car number 3, Earnhardt, in front in the Talladega 500, ready to make a pit stop. We'll be back with more action in a moment. Under caution with our live flag-to-flag coverage of the Talladega 500 here on CBS this afternoon. Field is under caution after a blown engine for Randy Baker. Let's take a look at replay at what we saw just a few moments ago out here on pit road. Now, Benny Parsons, that looks like a very busy supermarket on Saturday morning.
Can you imagine that? And, you know, how do you get any reason out of that chaos that you're seeing there? Your tires is every place. And Phil, my brother's right in the middle of the screen right now. He backs up and then tries to go, and I think he's having a problem of some kind. That's a live picture we're seeing. He's out of the race, Ken.
Oh, that's too bad. Running for Rookie of the Year, Phil Parsons, car number 66, having a problem here. He's been in a pretty good squabble with Rusty Wallace, and now Tommy Ellis is running for Rookie of the Year, really getting into it with the McClure car.
They have some excellent rookies this year, probably the best crop of rookies they've had in a long time.
Benny, does it look that way from the inside of the automobile when you're on pit road?
Oh, it does. You get in there and somebody pulls in front of you. You can't get out, or if you're the last one to come down pit road, then you can't get in.
And it seems like an eternity.
It seems like an eternity. There's tires, as we noticed a moment ago on that shot, there's tires laying all in pit road, which is you got to dodge. It's like going to the supermarket and the light poles you got to dodge to get in and out.
And the carts.
And the carts, right.
19 laps complete this time by 50.5 miles have been completed in our 500-mile test today on the NASCAR Grand National Tour.
Joe Ruttman had a problem in the pits, Ken. He had the hood up on his car number 98. He had charged up towards the front and was in that lead pack of cars, but he now has gone a lap down, and Phil Parsons, as we see his car being pushed into the garage area, Mike Joy was there.
That car has lost its drive shaft, Ned, and the rear end, they may have a problem there as well. They're going to fix it and get Phil back in the race for rookie points.
Let's see if we can get a word with Jeff Bodine here. Jeff Bodine, you came from 28 up to 11. Looks like that car is really hitched up today, Jeff.
It is, Ken. It's handling real good. We got up on the outside groove and seemed to come to the front pretty fast. We can maintain that all day. We'll be in good shape here. I want to say hi to my boys, Matt and Barry. They're back home. They want to be race car drivers someday. Now they can look and see what their father has to go through every week.
Jeff, this is Ned Jarrett. That fellow right in front of you, Kyle Petty, was coming up through the field with you.
Yeah, Kyle was running good. Neil Bonnett, Tim Richmond and Joe Ruppin, we're all running good. We get hooked together here and just kind of, you got to pick off these guys in front of you one at a time. It's hard to take a bunch at a time. Just take one at a time. If we can do that, we should be able to get to the front here in this next period.
Good luck to you, Jeff. Now we're going to the pit area. Here's Chris Economaki.
All kinds of excitement down here. Trouble with the cars, and one of Joe Ruttman's pitmen splashed some fluid in his face. He's getting his eyes washed out. Ruttman's car broke a distributor. We've had windshields cracking, drive shafts going bad, distributors breaking, and the race is only 50 miles old. It's going to be one of those days, I think. Back to you, Ken.
Ken, on the drive shaft situation, Benny, it's on a track like this with the high gearing. Sometimes it's awfully easy when you let that jack down, maybe to accelerate too quick, which can get a transmission, an axle, or a drive shaft.
Well, it is, and the clutch that we use on these race cars today is a very small unit, and it has a metallic disc, and it is so responsive that it's either in or out, and they will not take, when you let the clutch out here, the clutch engages so fast that it will just pop a drive shaft out.
4 cars have retired from the event. Grant Adcox is out. Ronnie Thomas from Virginia has retired. Randy Baker, as you just saw. Phil Parsons they have out, but we believe he's going to try to make an effort to get back in the event. 40 cars starting the event this afternoon, and 20 laps will be complete when they come by this time. They are now estimating attendance at some 94,000 for this race. The leader is that car number 17 that's now pitting, and that is Clark Dwyer, the 20-year-old driver from Colorado Springs, Colorado, in the Roger Hamby car.
But now he comes into the pits, and let's go to the pits and Mike Joy.
I'm with Dick Hutcherson, co-crew chief for A.J. Foyt. A.J.'s been running along in the middle of the pack. Is he just feeling things out, or is the car okay?
Well, we're just letting the cars get strung out a little bit. He said everything feels perfect, and we had a good pit stop then. We'll see if we can't stay up there now.
When you're running a series against fellas who drive this circuit 30 times a year, is it tough to come in and just run 4 or 5 races and keep up on all the innovations?
You're right. When you come down here and run NASCAR, you better bring your lunch because it's an all-day job to beat these guys.
Good luck today.
Hey, AJ.
Back upstairs.
There is A.J. Foyt getting set for the start. Car number 14.
That fellow that Dick Hutcherson that Mike Joy was talking to was a pretty fair show for himself, Ken. He came from Iowa.
You rubbed fenders with him a few times.
Oh, boy, many times. In fact, I believe he's the best dirt track racer that I ever ran against in stock cars.
Dick Hutcherson. Now, car number 4, originally out of Keokuk, wasn't he? Wasn't he
Yes,
another
he
one
was.
of those Keokuk stars?
I think that the state of Iowa has more racetracks than any other state in the Union, and they're all dirt. So they got some good experience there.
20 laps are now complete, 53 and 2/10 of a mile. 13 lead changes in 20 laps among 7 drivers have been recorded thus far in our CBS live flag-to-flag coverage of the 16th annual Talladega 500. Now, as we line up, Bobby Allison is on the point. Neil Bonnett is in second. Dale Earnhardt is in third. Richard Petty is in fourth. All 4 previous winners of this event. There's Terry Labonte lying 5th. Lap cars down on the inside as we get ready. Sterling Marlin's number 95, bottom of the track, and with him comes Joe Ruttman, a lap down. How does that work on a restart, Benny Parsons, with those lap cars down there? Really gives you a chance to tighten up and go for it.
Well, it gives you a chance to get that lap back. Like Joe Ruttman, his car is as good as any car here, but yet he had a distributor problem. He's now a lap down. Under the rules, he's able to pull down on the inside and race with the leaders, and if possible, get in front of the leaders to get the caution flag, and therefore he can make up a lap.
Watching the restart from Richard Petty in 4th place. 6 is Cale. 7th right now is the Melling car, Bill Elliott. Going 8th on the restart is Buddy Baker. In the 9th position is Mike Alexander. Greg Sachs is in 10th as they come back to the line. Running 11th is Tim Richmond. 12th is Bouchard. In the 13th position is Kyle Petty. And in 14th is that car number 5 of Jeff Bodine. And they're immediately going to work and getting around Sterling Marlin is Joe Ruttman. He wants that lap back. He's had a lot of misfortune this year. And a very good race driver. Richard Petty tagging right along with him as they hit the back straightaway. You are with Richard Petty going for his 201st victory here today at the world's fastest racing oval. They're the leaders. As they swap them around up in front, it is now Bonnett to lead, and dropping into that second spot comes the Dale Earnhardt team. Boy, look at that car settle as it goes over some of the rough part of the track.
Earnhardt's car looks very strong in the early going here. Of course, he qualified in the third position, and to me, Ben, it looks the strongest that I've seen it on a super speedway, even though he ran second in the Daytona 500 this year.
Allison back on the
He is more
inside.
competitive today than he has been, Ed, you're right.
Allison back on the inside, number 22, right back in there, thrusting that car by 3 machines as they come out of turn number 2. Bobby Allison knocks on the door another time.
And the fans here are just loving it because Bobby Allison and Neil Bonnett, the 2 cars that's side by side with Neil Bonnett, are only 50 miles from here, Hueytown, Alabama, and they got a lot of fans here today, kid.
Alabama gang going for it, and here comes Elliott mixing it up now. He's right up there, inches away from Bobby Allison's car at over 195 miles an hour as they just sashay a little off turn number 4.
Absolutely amazing at how close they can run together. When President Reagan was at Firecracker 400 a few weeks ago, he was awed by the fact that they could run that close together at speeds of upwards of 200 miles an hour.
All right, the Talladega Freight, the Talladega Express, wheels down out of the tri-oval. Just an incredibly fantastic competitive race here this afternoon on CBS. From the Alabama International Motor Speedway, Bill Elliott goes back on the inside, and Allison tries to work high on the back straightaway. There you see Petty lying 4th, actually lying 3rd because 98 is a lap car.
And now Ruttman has worked his way up there right behind Dale Earnhardt, so he's in position if another caution should come out to get back in the lead lane.
They really rocket off turn number 4, and you can see those cars just taking that set, getting bounced around as they come through there in this tremendous draft. Benny Parsons, you get actually lifted out there. It looks like those cars are floating.
They do. The car just, they don't really float, but they move around. There is so much air currents caused by the other cars, it just simply moves you around. There's nothing you can do. And you know, the thing that I want to impress upon these fans watching today, Ken, is these cars are literally, they are actually running 200 miles an hour, bumper to bumper and side by side.
3,700-pound cars. There goes Cale on the outside.
He is strong also. No surprise, though, at 202 miles an hour qualifying. Moves right up on the outside of Joe Ruttman, and Petty coming right with him, too. In the draft, Bobby Allison right behind Petty.
Darrell Waltrip back 28th on the restart. And he's trying to move his. We'll look at Yarborough just explode out from behind, drops to the bottom of the track, and in the tri-oval, it is Cale Yarborough, who has never won this race. He's won 81 Grand National races, but never this one.
Benny Parsons, there are not many racetracks that you can make that kind of a radical move at the speeds that they're running.
No, I tell you what, this racetrack is very forgiving for as fast as you do run. It really is. But also, when you have trouble, you hit as hard here as any racetrack on the circuit.
Benny Parsons can attest to that, crashing at some 190 miles per hour. But what a testimony the way those cars are built, because you just destroyed that car number 55.
I really did, Ken. And, you know, once the smoke settled and the car stopped, I crawled out of the car and walked away from it. And that is a testimony to Cliff champion Leo Jackson, my crew.
But you spent the night in the hospital. How do you feel today?
I feel fine. I really didn't feel that well, and I thought it was just my own benefit. I should spend the night so they could closely observe what was going on.
That's why Benny Parsons is with us and not starting ninth and not in the thick of this fray. Ronnie Thomas has come back on the track at an oil leak, lap number 7. He's come back out here fighting for points. Cale is first. Earnhardt is second. Richard Petty comes up on the outside for 3rd. Petty is back into it. Here comes Allison. And down to the inside. Look at Earnhardt struggling to go back by Cale Yarborough. And it will be Earnhardt in the first place in turn 3.
Petty had a notion to go with him, then decided that he'd pull up on Cale and follow him, but Earnhardt was the fast one at that point.
Front 3, front 4, 5, 6. Make it a dozen, make it 2 dozen. All together down into the tri-oval another time. Here's Richard Petty taking a look at Cale Yarborough on the high side this time. Underneath the starter stand, and on the inside, here comes Baker.
Baker is strong. And as we mentioned earlier, and he touches Cale Yarborough, they both keep control.
How do you do? Baker right there. Cale is not the man to touch.
Look at Baker's car, how squirrely it is as it gets down in the mixed up air down on the inside. When we say squirrely, of course, that's the car is moving back and forth.
Better than 200 miles an hour into turn number 3. They are side by side. You are inside Richard Petty's car. Here's a move by Elliott.
It's said that the Ford cars are very good for drafting because of the design of it. Benny, you've had experience with both kinds of cars drafting at these high speeds.
Well, I haven't driven one of the new Thunderbirds that we're seeing out here today, Ned, but just looking at the car and understanding aerodynamics, it looks like that it would be one of the better cars.
Petty moves in, looking like he's on a busy interstate, the Long Island Expressway, just dodging between cars at 40, 45 miles an hour, except this is 200 miles an hour at the world's fastest oval, and there is the battle for the lead, all of it.
You know, Ken, people would say there's no way these cars are running 200 miles an hour, but they are especially prepared automobiles. They're not stock cars. They're not Chevrolets and Fords and Chryslers that you can go buy. They're worked on and spent many, many hours developing these cars for this speed we're seeing today.
And many, many thousands of dollars.
And many dollars.
29 laps will be complete this time. Often the scene in the early going are big express trains like this at Talladega.
That's Bobby Allison's crew chief, Gary Nelson, keeping his eye on what Allison's doing. Of course, he's right in the thick of that battle.
Earnhardt stays first. The number 28 car, Cale Yarborough, maintaining second. The rest of the field tagging along. Richard Petty into third, and here's Elliott. Elliott back into it with Terry Labonte on the inside of the 44 car, the blue car.
Now with Labonte coming up on the inside, Ken Baker's had a problem down on the inside by himself, but now maybe he can hook up with Labonte and be able to move on up as two working together.
Two cars on the inside, will that stabilize the front car, Benny Parsons?
It will help the front car somewhat, but it is not as good as the cars on the outside, Ken.
30 laps, 80 miles, 79.8 miles complete, this time by. In the 16th annual live coverage of the Talladega 500 to the stripe, Earnhardt perseveres in first place, right there in second. And now you're back another time with Bill Elliott in that Ford Thunderbird. Look at the chewing gum along there. You can tell this is a big, long race. I think he has at least 5 chews for this one, Ned.
He figures one for every 100 miles, I guess. You can see his right foot as he goes up and down on the gas. He can't run full throttle, Benny Parsons, around even though they're running 200 miles an hour.
Well, that's right. Not with the cars in front of him, because the draft is so important, and it helps that car so much that he's able to literally back off the accelerator and still run 200 miles an hour.
Richard Petty going for it. Richard Petty pulling up for the lead. 22 cars in the lead pack. Richard Petty is trying to take that first spot. They are side by side coming through the fourth turn, down into the tri-oval. Petty bottom side, Dale Earnhardt high, Cale Yarborough right behind, followed by Bobby Allison in fourth. Back in front goes Earnhardt.
It would take an awfully strong engine to be able to pass down on the inside.
Richard's going to wish he had done that before this is over, I'll tell you.
1 through 22. 22 cars are 2 seconds apart. 22 cars, 6 seconds apart. Rather, 2 seconds, 2.06 to be exact.
Running very close. Now, you see Petty has had to fall back in line. And Benny, you said he's going to wish that he hadn't have done that. He's back in fifth instead of battling for the lead. What happened when he went
Well,
down?
he gets on the bottom side of the racetrack, and there just isn't, you just don't have enough power to get up off those turns on the bottom of the racetrack, particularly when you've got that string of cars that are drafted on the outside and leave you there by yourself. You've got to have someone to draft with if you're going to do that. He may be able to do this in 10 laps or 15 laps when the tires are hot and the cars can't handle. Maybe he can run down it. But right now they've got fresh tires. Everybody's handling well.
Further back in the field, in that 9th position is Kyle Petty. In 10th is Tim Richmond. Running 11th is Lake Speed. In the 12th position right now, there stands Neil Bonnett. And going 13th is Tommy Ellis. In the 14th position is Ricky Rudd. And running 15th, back up to 15th, comes Darrell Waltrip, who's making a great charge. Average speed through 30 laps, 159.6 miles per hour. That is not a record. Here's a word from Mike Joy.
I'm in the pits of the lead car, Dale Earnhardt. Each team keeps its own score chart of the individual laps as they come.
Got a crash at turn number 4, and that is the car number 2 that's being driven by Elliott Forbes Robinson today. Elliott Forbes Robinson has socked the wall at turn number 4.
He has lost an engine, Ken. I would see. You see the smoke coming out of the exhaust pipes? That means that's water that's gotten in the exhaust pipes, and they're so hot that we're seeing steam come out of there.
And when the engine lets go, water, oil gets under those rear wheels. You don't have much control.
That's exactly what happened to me the other day, and Friday when I crashed was I blew an engine, which caused the problem.
Former Trans Am champion Elliott Forbes Robinson has brought out the second caution of the afternoon. In the 32nd lap is when the crash took place. Field now working in lap number 33. Caution flag in the hand of Harold Kinder, and let's see if we can discern anything from what happened up there in turn number 4 with this replay.
He's already in the slide. Apparently the engine let go as he started into turn 3. The oil got under the wheels and just sent him spinning around and around, and now he comes down off of the high banking, going backwards, of course. See the front end of the car bashed in as he got into the wall very hard.
The Robert Harrington, car number 2, formerly one of the Jim Stacy stable cars. Elliott Forbes Robinson taking a savage beating in the 4th turn here at the Alabama International Motor Speedway. Here is a report from Mike Joy.
Dale Earnhardt is on pit road. Richard Childress, Kurt Shelberdine of the team have gotten a real good pit service this year, and it's helped Earnhardt to the point standings championship. They're going all the way around to change 4 tires. Let's go down pit road to Chris Economaki.
And national champion Bobby Allison is doing the same thing. He's already had his outside tires changed. Tires are very important here at Talladega. Not only to have the fresh ones on, but to have the right diameter. The difference in diameter is called in racing the stagger. And if the stagger is right, a car can really go. And if it's wrong, the driver is in real trouble. Back to you, Ken.
It's pit road, and the action is for the moment. Waiting for a report on Elliott Forbes. Richard Petty is coming to a halt down at the exit of pit road, number 43. There you see it. You're in the car now. And he's turning things off, and he may have cooked something on number 43.
There is smoke coming out from underneath the car, Ned, so I think something has happened to the engine, looks like.
It really is, and he was right up there in the thick of the battle. No indication when he was running under the green that he had problems, but here, after making a pit stop, just heading back out. Something wrong with Richard Petty's Pontiac, and you can see Richard now reaching down to unbuckle his safety equipment, now taking the window screen loose, so apparently that's going to be all.
Push it back up there, yeah.
Richard Petty, can we get a word with you? We're going to try to get a word from him in just a moment here.
He told his crew to try to push it back up there, so maybe he thinks.
He's walking away from it, so that's...
Elliott Forbes Robinson. Richard Petty, this is Ken Squire at CBS.
Yeah, go ahead.
What happened?
Well, I think the transmission come out of it. I just left the pit in first gear, and when I shifted to second, everything broke loose, and I think the back of the transmission probably broke.
Can it be repaired and get you back out here for points?
According to how big a hurry they want to get in. Yeah, it could be repaired. We'll see what's going on after we get it back up to the garage here and see.
All right, sir. Richard Petty, number 43. See if we can see. This is when he was coming out. And as he came out, going down pit road here,
and he said as he
something
shifted
broke
the gears,
right there.
Yeah, and you can see that smoke. Yeah, and apparently it did burst the transmission or something. If it had been a drive shaft, we wouldn't see the grease and the oil come out of it.
That's correct.
Car number 43, sapped of strength for just a moment. They're going to do some repair work and try to get Richard Petty back in this event. And this car is making its last appearance before it becomes a museum piece. Richard was kidding about that. He said they ought to put me in there with it. Averaging more than one official lead change every 2 laps thus far in the running of the Talladega 500. Live today on CBS Sports. 36 laps, 95 miles have been completed as you see the remains of car number 2, the Elliott Forbes Robinson car from which he walked away, being brought into the garage area, and Richard Petty's car. Wrong way Richard coming up pit road here as they hustle it back, trying to get that car in for additional work. Now, 2 cars have broken drivetrains today, and we'll ask you then, Ed Jarrett or Benny Parsons. Here at Alabama, that's pretty critical, getting off pit road as much as the activity on the racetrack.
It is very critical because running 200 miles an hour on the racetrack, sometimes you come into the pits, you lose the concept of speed, and then especially when you try to accelerate and go back out, Benny, which puts a lot of extra strain on the driving strain.
It really does. And you know, there's always the controversy here. What gear do you run? A open rear end like they use in street cars, or a locked rear end that both wheels pull. And a locked rear end is better for leaving the pits because you have both rear tires pulling. But it's worse on the transmission and drive shaft because as you let the clutch out, you have all that power going and you don't have any tire slippage. And when the tire's spinning, that simply is saving the clutch and the transmission.
Richard Petty's car being pushed back. They're going to try and get some work done on that car in the drivetrain and get him back into action. 37 laps have now been completed, and as they are lining up for this restart taking place when they come by this time, We'll have car number 75, Dave Marcus, in the lead. Let's go to Mike Joy.
When the caution came out, Ken, we were talking to Richard Childress. He's the crew chief on what was the lead car at the time, Dale Earnhardt. A lot goes on here on pit road between pit stops. They chart every lap of the race, and you can see the lap times below 48 seconds. The first 7 laps of this race run at over 200 miles an hour. And when Earnhardt went back to the lead on lap 24, that was also a 200-plus mile-an-hour lap. Another crewman keeps track of gas mileage. Another measures tire circumference as they have to adjust air pressure to keep that stagger that's so important in the right perspective that Chris Economaki talked about. Richard Childress, are you surprised that this race is so fast that we've had 9 laps of this race over 200 miles an hour?
Well, not really. With the weather conditions today, we anticipated running over 200, and we made a couple of changes this morning for the weather.
You're the point standing leaders, but you guys really need a win.
Yeah, we need a win. We'll hope it'll come today, or if not, our time's coming. It's really competitive this year.
Well, they're up front and in position to do so. Back to you, Ken.
All right, 7 restart. Here's how they line up as they come down on the start. It'll be Dave Marcus out in front, the Raymock team, number 75 for first. In the second now is Neil Bonnett. Running third on the restart will be the car number 9, Bill Elliott. And moving up to fourth is Harry Gant, who won at Pocono, Pennsylvania in a 500-mile there just last Sunday. As
Phil Parsons is back in the action now, Ken, even though several laps down.
Ron Bouchard is in 5th, and on the start, Bouchard started to slip back a little, then picks it back up and goes after them. The leader for the moment, Dave Marcus, who started from the pole and won this race, this Talladega 500.
Right on his back bumper is Neil Bonnett, who drove this car number 75 last year for Barbara Hilly and Butch Mock, who owned the Raymock team. So he knows what he's got to pass. He won several races in that car in 1983.
Now there's Bonnett right there in that second spot, and they get just a little bit of breathing room, but the freight train is about to overhaul them. There's Elliott back in third. 39 laps completed, 188 this time by. Marcus out in front. Native of Wisconsin, staying in first, an Alabama driver in second. And here comes Elliott, the Georgia driver in the Ford Thunderbird, goes down to the bottom of the track, and look how easy that car moves through, Ned.
He wasted no time whatsoever. He just caught Bonnett, moved right on the inside, and blew right around it. Wouldn't surprise me to see him move around Marcus going into turn 3. Let's see if he does. He pulls out to make the pass. Here he goes.
Here's Elliott going for the lead another time, and Marcus relegated to second position. Back in the 6th position there is Jody Ridley. Jody Ridley, the Cumberland car, beginning to show some strength out here. Good racer, former Rookie of the Year, and he drove for Junie Donlevy, the number 84. Right side of your screen trying to make a move, the 84 car, and Baker gets underneath it.
Baker wastes no time in getting back up towards the front. His car looks awfully strong here today, too.
Lots of rumors that this is Baker's last year with the Wood brothers.
There was a meeting going on this morning with Kyle Petty and the Wood brothers. There have been rumors that he might go to that car next year.
The story is that Kyle Petty has an arrangement with his sponsor for 3 years, and he might well take that somewhere besides from his own grandfather's shop.
The rumors here this week have been awfully strong that Kyle might leave the Petty Enterprises. Of course, Richard Petty left Petty Enterprises last winter and drives for the Mike Curb Racing Associates. And if Kyle did leave, don't know what might happen to that.
Elliott now is second place here, Ned. Benny Parsons.
Buddy Baker is driving like a man possessed out there. I think that he's heard all these rumors, and I think he's trying to get himself in position for next year right now, Ned.
He's listening to that, Jerry. Here's Elliott now up, taking a shot for the lead.
Neil Bonnett on the inside, being pushed by Buddy Baker, but now Baker decides, well, maybe I ought to move up here behind Bill Elliott. He seems to be the strongest at this point and get some help from his Ford buddy.
Elliott was the 10th different leader in the event.
Well, then he says, we'll just make it 3 deep going into turn Bonnett, and
it's Baker. Look at Baker come through, and Bouchard. Now there's the move that gave Bouchard the win here in 1981. Blue top, red bottom on car number 47, that car that just glided down across the track, right to the bottom, and picked up a couple of spots. So Baker's now first, and Ron Bouchard is in second, the Fitchburg, Massachusetts ace, who cut his teeth in modified racing in the New England area. Now back into second place, and he has an excellent brother coming along. Kenny Bouchard is looking stronger every year.
He runs very strong in the modified circuit up in the Northeast, where Ronnie Bouchard got most of his experience.
Hello, here he comes again. Dale Earnhardt trying to be the first man in history. Ooh, just slides in there. And look at Bouchard have to work number 47 as he almost overrode car number 3, taking that spot. How about that, Benny Parsons?
I tell you what, that 3 car, Dale Earnhardt, is extremely strong today. He is as strong as I've seen him all year, because He was third in line then going down the back straightaway, pulled out and almost passed the front two cars. And at Talladega, that's very difficult to do.
Takes some horsepower to do it, and also the car's got a handle when you get in the turns. Now you see Elliott has already been pushed back to the 5th position.
There's Jeff Bodine right in there behind Bobby Allison. And on the inside is the Terry Labonte car. Phil Parsons, number 66, back on the track and scrambling. At 40 laps, the average speed 147.153 miles per hour. And we have completed 43 laps to date. 114 miles are down. Here's Bodine underneath Bobby Allison.
Coming up on lake speed in car number 1 on the outside. Now Bodine got some help from Tim Richmond, who we see up in front in the red car down on the inside of the track. But now Allison gets the momentum coming up behind lake speed. Draft plays such an important role in making your passes here.
Swapping positions. Officially, they only count lead changes at the start-finish line. You can see there's wholesale changes of positions going on. Kyle Petty is in. Looks like a heating problem on car number 7.
Tough luck. He was running very strong. He had come from 26th position up to about 11th before the first caution. But now Kyle in the pits, running any chances he might have of winning this race.
Lost almost his entire pit crew. What, 5 of them were fired? Let's go to Mike Joy. Quick word.
Ken, they're just flooding that car with water. It is indeed overheating. They're not sure of the reason, but anything they can cool off, they're going to and try to get it back in the race for points. The leaders go by, and Kyle will go a lap down.
New leader on the racetrack. Whoop, take it back. Ron Bouchard headed for just about 6 seconds, and bang, there goes Buddy Baker right back into first. Bouchard said hello. I think he headed at the line. He may be credited Bouchard with leading for him, but no, that's not the story, according to our statistician, Bob Blatford. He led, but not where it counted. Baker back in first, Earnhardt into second, Bouchard to third, Cale Yarborough on the 28th car, on the outside in fourth, then Bill Elliott in fifth. Here's Chris Economaki.
We spoke about stagger a little bit ago. That's the difference in circumference from inside wheel to the outside wheel, and that dimension was always measured with a tape measure. It cost $3 or $4, but now a tool has been made to measure. It's a $150 Stagger Master, and they just put it on here like this and move it up, and they get the reading. A quarter of an inch difference from the outside to the inside makes a great deal of difference on the racetrack. Back to you, Ken.
Leaders now down into turn number 1. Baker first, and Earnhardt on the outside, getting caught up as they go into the back straightaway. Another time, Bouchard is there. Ron Bouchard fighting his way back up, trying to take another shot, almost tagging a car as they head down the back straightaway of the world's fastest racing oval, the Alabama International Motor Speedway. Working down toward the 50th lap of the Talladega 500, 16th annual. Last lap at an average speed of 200.3 miles per hour. And the man on the point is this man, number 21, Buddy Baker, with Cale Yarborough currently in the 2nd position. We've completed 50 laps as they come by this time. 133 miles have been completed on this 2.6-mile track. Next motorsports event on CBS. August 11th, the International Race of Champions, final round from the Michigan International Speedway. There's Cale going into second. That's Saturday, August 11th, live flag-to-flag coverage with 3 onboard cameras. Benny Parsons, how about that one?
Well, I tell you, I think everybody has been kind of feeling each other out as we've been going along through the first 3 races. But they're going to pay the money after August 11th. And it's time to get serious.
$150,000 to win International Race of Champions this year. Lead change once again. Give it back to Cale Yarborough, number 28. An amazing Waddell Wilson prepared car out in front. Attrition now stands at 6. A.J. Foyt has just retired, and so is Joe Ruttman's number 98. Ruttman and Foyt have retired from the event. Let's take a look at who is out of this race as we watch Cale Yarborough on the point. There you see the cars that have come out. Elliott Forbes Robinson, the heaviest victim here, crashing hard in turn number 4. He walked away from that incident. Petty, they're working on his car. Clutch gone on Grant Adcox. He may come back. Randy Baker, no hopes for him today. We'll update the story here at 50 laps. We've had 10 different leaders, and the lead has been swapped 25 times. Just amazing, Joe.
It really is. The average speed, of course, reduced by the caution flags that we've had. Now let's go to the pits and Mike Joy.
Bonnett, a minute ago, we showed you how the teams keep lap charts. Here's another way to do it. Kyle Petty's team has a personal computer on pit road. It charts the number of laps in the race, the number of laps he's run, his lap speed, and how long it's been since he made a fuel stop. The computer's great, but they still keep the handheld chart as a backup.
Last lap at 199.01 miles per hour. Back straightaway. Lead car is about to be challenged once again. It's Yarborough on the outside and down on the inside. Here comes Buddy Baker in a rush at over 200 miles an hour. He takes another glimpse of first place. Here's Chris Economaki.
They talk about the high cost of racing. Well, one hidden cost is a replacement windshield, about $100. This is taken out of Lake Speed's car a little bit ago. Would you believe that this windshield was changed in under a minute? It's interesting to know that the windshield glass doesn't fly. They're specially made. They have a layer of plastic inside, and the glass is held to it with a glue. A safety precaution, another expense. Back to you, Ken.
A crash. I believe that may be Buddy Aaron. It's number 90, Richard Brooks's car. Richard Brooks, former winner of this event, has crashed. The 1973 winner, his Ford, the Junie Donlevy car, crashed just at the start-finish line and has landed about 800 feet beyond it.
We see a lot of smoke coming from it, Ken. It's hard to tell, although we do see smoke coming from the exhaust pipe, and as Benny Parsons mentioned earlier, that's an indication that something let go inside the engine of that car, and that perhaps caused the spin.
That happened in the 52nd lap. Lap number 52.
Brooks is the 1969 Rookie of the Year on the Grand National Circuit. He's the only driver in today's race who participated in the inaugural event here in 1969. He drove his own Plymouth and finished 5th in the wake of the infamous driver's boycott of that first race.
He was running 19th, and there you see the car breaking away in the tri-oval. Back end goes into the wall, rotates, slams the front end. He once rolled about 12, 13 times in the back straightaway here. Here he is just across the start-finish line, and he'll end up down to the grass.
Very fortunate, Ken, that he didn't hit the wall any harder than he did, and now the car scoots down into the grassed area, and that's where it rests right now.
He is still sitting in the car and waiting for some assistance. Richard Brooks in car number 90, California native, now beginning to unstrap. Here's Benny Parsons.
Well, that's really and truly the safest place to be, Ken, because those cars that are going by on the racetrack, they look like they're going 50 miles an hour, but in fact, they're probably running 125 miles an hour, so you need to stay in the car.
We'll be back with more live coverage of this, the 1984 Talladega 500, after this word from your local station. The longest walk in sports is not from the bullpen. The longest walk in sports is when you've tried your very best. You take that long walk away from a car that you had so much hope that would change your destiny. Richard Brooks, car number 90, originally out of Porterville, California, and a great favorite. Now, after he crashed, he left some debris on the track, and Jody Ridley, then running in 6th, overran it, Ned, and there's the result. He blew a tire, and he's had some problems.
He did blow a tire as he went across the start-finish line, hitting some of the debris off of Brooks' car. Tough break for him, just an innocent victim of circumstances.
Joe Ruttman lost an engine. A.J. Foyt, they say, lost his power steering. That's an update on those two stories today. Let's go to Chris Economy.
Well, Dick Brooks, what brought that about out there, that whirligig on the track?
Well, you know, we were in a position to where if we were going to make a show, and we had to do it like that, you know.
No, seriously.
We lost something in the engine. I don't know, and I was doing pretty good with it, and I pushed the clutch in, and then it just slid out from under me, and it had to be something in the bottom end because it was a lot of oil. So, but I'd forgotten how far those things slide, man.
What would go through your mind? You're twirling like that.
Well, just trying to, you know, make sure that you got some sort of idea which direction you're going in, and try to steer away from anything. I know when I turned all the way around, and I seen I was going to hit the wall in the back, then the next thought was don't hit the inside wall. So I let the car turn around and then lifted the brakes a little bit. When it got going straight, I pushed it back down, and it stayed straight. Then it didn't hit anything else. So sometimes it's a lot of luck, but it worked that time.
You look okay? Any sore spots?
No, I didn't. I barely hit. It just, you know, we were lucky. The Lord was with us, I guess.
Okay, better luck to you next time. But now up pit road to Mike Joy.
Well, Joe Ruttman, Randy Baker, Dick Brooks, and this fella are in the garage area. Richard, any chance of getting this car back in the race?
Well, we're trying to. They had to change transmission. We busted a tail shaft right after we made a pit stop, and as I went out and changed gears, the rest of the tail shaft on the thing, all the grease runs out and it starts vibrating. So they think they can get it back in. In fact, they're almost ready to get it back in. Now we've got to determine if we're so far behind, we might be better not to wear the car out and take chances on, getting in more trouble.
Well, even though you're not in the running for the win, there's such a big pot of gold at the end of the season, you've got to get out there and run for points if you can.
I think that's one thing they're looking at, as far as the point standing at the end of the season, 1 or 2 positions can mean, a bunch of bucks. So, even though you don't make it here, you might can make it at the end of the year.
Richard Petty trying to get back in the race. Elsewhere in the garage area, A.J. Foyt is out of the event, and this is Elliott Forbes Robinson's car, or rather, what's left of it. If you'd taken that wrap in your passenger car, that front bumper would probably be up somewhere around the windshield. Now, they're not trying to get this car back in the race, but they'll try to get it ready to race at Atlanta in November. Back upstairs.
58 laps have been completed, 154 miles. 26 cars are still in the lead lap of the 1984 Talladega 500. Live today on CBS. Ready for a restart. In our live coverage of the Talladega 500 on this Sunday afternoon at the end of July, and right now Bobby Allison is in command. From Colorado Springs, Colorado, a 20-year-old driver, Clark Dwyer, is second. Terry Labonte runs in third. Cale Yarborough is fourth. Neil Bonnett is up to fifth. The safety car comes in and they come by. They will have completed 60 laps, 159.5 miles down to the stripe. Green is coming out. 25 cars in the lead lap. Allison breaking away up in front. Labonte second. Cale Yarborough right there. He's moving into it. And also up there, just in sixth position, is car number 3, Dale Earnhardt.
Which has been so strong. Allison got a good jump on the restart, Ken, but that lead won't last too long. Once they pick his draft up, they'll be right back on him, as we see now as they head down the backstretch.
3 cautions to date, and Cale Yarborough closing rapidly on Bobby Allison, the car number 22, putting a lap on Phil Parsons as they go down into 3. And here comes Cale, making short work of closing up on the leader. Cale Yarborough surveys the prospects for first spot as they come through turn number 4. Ducks back in, 44 Labonte right there, top 3. Just incredible racing. And these fans agree.
Oh, they really are loving it here today. They've been up and down. They're going to be worn out at the end of the race.
Side by side in the lead, Labonte tucks in. Bonnett lies fourth. The maroon and white car, number 12, the Warner Hodgson car right there in fourth. And there you see, and further back, here comes that 47 down to the bottom. That is Ron Bouchard, the fellow that won in '81. And from inside, Bill Elliott's car, you're watching Bouchard working against the 7 car, which, as you saw, had problems earlier, was in the pits. Kyle Petty still making a go of it. Lead change. They work around. It's not in the lead. That's just back a spot or 2. That is the lead. They pulled over the 2 cars.
Yes, Bodine is beginning to flex his muscles. He's been in it, right in the thick of the battle here, but not really up there for the lead that much. But right now he's there, but here comes Earnhardt. Boy, he has fought for the lead all afternoon.
Allison back there in third. Cale Yarborough falling back. Bouchard pulls up, rather Ricky Rudd pulls up. He's into fourth. Here's Richard Petty getting back in car number 43. Last time out for that number 43.
Well, they apparently surveyed the situation after making the repairs, Ken, decided it would be worth it to get back out and try to get some of those Winston Cup points.
Earnhardt first. Number 22, Allison second. Labonte is third. Cale Yarborough riding fourth. Turn 3. Working the 63rd lap of 188. Front 4. Elliott's car. Now, as we come into the tri-oval, Elliott, once again, as we saw at Michigan, could be a real factor before this one is over.
There are so many cars that look so strong in the going up to this point in this race, it would be awfully hard to pick a winner.
Do you pick a line in here, Benny Parsons, or do you just follow and find the hole?
I think that Bill Elliott's probably doing the wisest thing. He's just following along. He's trying to see who's the best. Can run, who can run. I think before the day's over, he'll be a serious contender.
Here comes Baker. The number 21 car drops to the inside. There's Allison, your leader. There's Baker in the middle of the track, and Cale gets pressed really high. And remember, that 21 has not been as stable as some other cars out there now.
They have bumped together several times, and they're very close friends, Ken, when they're off the racetrack. But boy, they aren't showing out there today. They're going at it.
A true test of friendship.
Yes.
Bouchard lines up side by side with Earnhardt. Allison stays right there. Folks in Alabama love to see him run and win.
As long as those cars are running side by side back there, it's going to be hard for them to move around Bobby Allison. But now the Kale has moved up on his back bumper. That might push Allison a little further out front. Here comes Petty back into the action.
Richard Petty, number 43, coming back to make a go of it yet today. Points all important. Baker breaks into second place.
And he picked up the draft of Bobby Allison from the inside and scooted right up behind him.
Draft like a wake off a motorboat, and he just scooped up the bottom side of the V. You can hear the crowd cheering almost over the sounds of these engines, 600 horsepower at full song. 3 wide across the start-finish line. Like bullets out of a 30-30 down to the turn number 1. Allison deployed first, and Richard Petty comes back up on the banking. Like riding in a barrel on these 5-story high banks. What is the sensation like, Benny Parsons?
You know, Ken, people have asked that question before, and it's so hard to explain. It's very difficult. I think that there isn't words to explain it. You just have to be there.
On the inside, Bouchard moving in. Here's Bouchard again, 3 wide in turn number 4. Allison stays in front. Richard Petty is down how many laps? About 25, 30?
30 laps now, so no chance of getting even a high position, but still, every position that he might get, somebody else falls out, well then that will give him a few more points.
Get to the Waldorf Astoria, and it will be a big payoff.
And that's the kind of traffic we see in New York when they go to Waldorf Astoria for the banquet in December.
199.7 miles per hour in the last lap. What's the sensation like there, Benny Parsons?
That looks like the start of a race at 60 miles an hour, but those cars are running 195 to 200. The sensation is you don't want to be there. Let me out of there because it's too nerve-wracking. Your heart can't stand it. Ron Bouchard has taken the lead again.
Here comes Elliott down on the inside. Bill Elliott
this time,
pushing for second place. Baker up on the high side as they come by. 67 laps complete this time of 188. 178 miles down.
Oops. Boy, Labonte got awfully close to the wall that time. A marvelous piece of driving as he gathered it back in. I think he did touch the wall. It'd be interesting to see if he got any sheet metal up there, perhaps pushing it in against the tire.
Dale Earnhardt, currently the leader in the Grand National standings, back there in 7th spot. Here they are, single filing down to the back straightaway. Bouchard in front, and here comes Baker back, and here comes Allison back for the lead. It is Baker into first, Allison into second, and Bouchard falling back in turn 3. Swapping back and forth. Now, are they setting each other up here? What are they doing at this time, Benny Parsons?
Well, each of these fellows right now are just simply feeding their egos because they want to lead the race and they want to prove to their crew and everyone else that they can lead the race, and they are.
Ron Bouchard was the 13th official race leader in the first 67 laps, Ned.
Unbelievable competition we have going here today. And Benny, I suspect that some of them are trying some of those moves if it gets down and they're in that same position at the end of the race just to see what they can do.
Oh, they want to know. Sure, that's exactly right, Ned. Bobby Allison wants to know who he can pass and who he's going to have trouble passing. So therefore, he'll make his decision with 2 or 3 laps to go.
Well, he took Ron Bouchard right with him and blew right around Buddy Baker, 2 cars working together. Bouchard, he wants to lead this thing again. It's the first time that he had led, and I believe, in the first 67 laps, even though he's been right in the thick of the battle.
Kyle Petty made an unscheduled stop and has come back on the track. 69 laps complete this time by. Back with Elliott another time. Cale Yarborough. It's all there with Yarborough's car, and he's back beside Baker another time.
They have a lot of
Siamese twins, another Ford and a Chevrolet.
They have a lot of confidence in each other. You have to have if you're going to run that close together. And Benny Parsons, there are some drivers out there that you don't run that close together.
Well, there's some drivers that you know what's going on when you come off the turn, that they're not going to give you the room that you're required, so you simply have to back off the accelerator. There's others, you know who will give you room and who won't, so therefore you just drive accordingly.
9 lead changes in the last 10 laps. Here's Allison still staying out in front, and the only Chrysler in the field, Buddy Arrington. Scott, direction of that was Bouchard's number 47. Down on the inside, staying right there battling.
Benny, it looks like his car is handling awfully well, even though it's not one of the better cars of the design of the body.
Well, that's the thing that I've been impressed with so far is that the cars that are not aerodynamically sound, you know, the Buicks and the Fords are probably not as good as the Chevrolet in aerodynamics, but yet Bouchard, Bobby Allison, and the Fords of Baker and Elliott have led this race. So that tells me that the handling today is very, very important.
Of course, that horsepower is helping right now.
Okay, what helps the most out here? Horsepower, handling, what is it?
I think that horsepower and aerodynamics are the most important thing, but all those without a chassis won't work. So it takes a combination of everything, really and truly.
Sure looks to me like you've got to have the handle today. There's Bodine nipping away. Right back up in there behind the 7th place car of car number 3. The Earnhardt car dancing a little here.
Boy, he gets close to that wall as he came off there.
71 laps down. There's Bouchard, the number 5, right behind the 3. And there's that 47 that slipped back. He went up for the lead and just fell back about 5 spots.
We saw him a moment ago on the inside coming off turn 4, and he lost his momentum. He got on the inside, and he don't have the aerodynamics and maybe not the horsepower. He lost it a little bit, and he was lucky to be able to squeeze it in 5th place.
Or the way they gathered him up.
There's a problem on Bouchard's windshield, Ken. We see on this, of course, they have taped it during that last caution period. They taped that crack. Hopefully it won't burst open anymore, but with the pressure that you have at 200 miles an hour, it puts a lot of pressure on that glass, especially after you get a small crack.
Running 8th on the field, Terry Labonte. Running in 9th is Neil Bonnett, and in 10th is Darrell Waltrip. 72 laps down. Hard to get off these leaders when they're running that tight together, Ned.
Just unbelievable racing. We see that Labonte is sticking right up there in that front pack, so apparently that little brush with the wall a few laps back didn't hurt him too much because he's still able to run fast and not hurting a tire.
Still another lead change. Kaylee Arborough goes for it in car number 28, and Baker comes along from the bottom for 2nd spot. Allison relegated to 3rd. Let's go to Chris Economaki.
Yeah. Well, when those 650 horsepower engines are let go, they put black marks on the track. But when Richard Petty decided he had to stop with his car, it tore up some of the asphalt and a lot of his tires. Just an example of some of the forces that are not acting on these cars today. Now down pit road to Mike Joy.
That crack in Ron Bouchard's windshield is something they've dealt with before. Jack Beebe's the car owner. You've had cracked windshields, drop window nets, all kinds of problems like this at this racetrack.
Yeah, but I think we've got them all solved now. We've got Wayne on here, and he's doing a good job.
He's talking about new crew chief Wayne Bumgardner, and of course they've also won here in 1981. And when that happened, Bouchard credited Baker for teaching him how to draft with a victory. And they're good friends on track and off, and I'm not surprised to see Baker and Bouchard drafting together. We'll see a lot of that this afternoon.
Bouchard's going to, he and Buddy Baker are promoting a short track race up in New England next weekend, Ken, and he and Richard Petty and Buddy Baker are all going to be racing against each other at Thompson Speedway.
Here they are, back in the main straightaway. It is Cale first. 2nd spot is Baker's car. Then comes Allison, and Bill Elliott lies 4th in the field. So you have those General Motors products intermixed very nicely with the Ford products out there. They're getting equal time as they go down the back straightaway.
Seem to be, and they're running fairly equal speed, but Buddy Baker's not content running 2nd.
Oh, indeed. Here's Baker going for it again. Buddy Baker taking a shot at leading this race another time. Now passing Buddy Arrington, the 1975 winner. Baker in front, averaging 200.3 miles per hour. We're back with you live at the Alabama International Motor Speedway. Benny Parsons, Ned Jarrett alongside. I'm Ken Squire. Down to the pits today, Mike Joy and Chris Economaki. We're 78 laps deep, 207 miles into the 188th lap. Talladega 500 for a near $500,000 purse. 23 cars running the lead lap, and they're all right here battling for first place. At the moment, the lead has been swapped another time, and now it's Terry Labonte's effort of the Dale Inman car. He's up in front. The 2nd place car remains the Buddy Baker machine. And Benny Parsons, I think you picked the right day to come up and watch the race from up here.
I really did. If I was going to watch a race from in the booth, this was an excellent day to do it, because I tell you, in the race car, you realize those spots are close, and it is close competition, but it don't scare you like watching it from up here. I watch it, Ken, and my heart just jumps in my throat because it looks like they're going to crash every corner of every lap.
You're
Does it
watching
look that way out there when you're...
No, it don't look that bad.
You're watching it live here on CBS, and the amazing thing to me is here you have all these runners competing against each other and yet working in concert in such unison. If one has a problem, it's a problem for all of them. And the fact they can run at 200 miles an hour, as we watch right here, Our live pictures from Talladega, Alabama, and run so flawlessly, and yet really depend so much on each other to simply exist, Ned.
They absolutely do depend on each other a great deal. Ken, a little while ago, we said that they were averaging a lead change every 2 laps. For the last 18 laps, we have had 14 lead changes. Tim Richmond has gone behind the wall. He was one of those that hoped to be up in the front running. Another lead change, and Buddy Baker goes into the lead.
Richmond, the 8th retiree from the event. Now there's Bill Elliott getting inside on our 2 car cameras side by side out here. There is Jeff Bodine, last lap at 199.8 miles per hour. That's from Bodine's car. And that's from Elliott's car looking the other way. That's 7th and 8th. Go down to the corner.
Bodine, of course, has 2 short track victories this year. A brand new team that was put together this year with Harry Hyde, the crew chief, has done an excellent job. Some people said that maybe he was over the hill. He'd been away from the sport too long. He hadn't fielded a tough car in the last several years, but he has proven that he still knows what's going on.
Out in front, Baker. Ford back in front. And the 44 car stays right there. The Chevrolet of Terry Labonte. The Billy Hagan Walter Wood car, prepared by Dale Inman. Back in the tri-oval, 18-degree banking. Allison lies third. Then the yellow car, the orange and white car, that's Cale Yarborough. And comes Bouchard. And notice the blue and yellow, that Wrangler car, which is the number 3 car of Earnhardt. Now that car was working better earlier than it seems to be now.
It was, and after this last pit stop, it doesn't seem to be going quite as well. And Ben, it could be that what sometimes we say a bad set of tires, but that's not really the case, a mismatched set of tires.
Well, the sizing is not exactly right because he just is not running as well as he was earlier on.
Excuse me, gentlemen, we have one car way off the pace, and it's a major player, Neil Bonnett exiting turn number 2 very slowly. Bonnett, something is amiss on car number 12 as he's going into the back straightaway. There you see Bonnett. He's way off the pace, Ned. And what an unfortunate situation for Neil Bonnett, the 1980 winner of this Talladega 500.
And, of course, he's one of only 2 Alabama drivers in this Talladega 500. Has a lot of fans here looking for him to do well today. He's had a tough year so far. He broke a wrist earlier at Martinsville, Virginia, drove with the injury, and also his crew chief was injured at Daytona, Doug Richard. He's just now getting back. He's still on crutches part-time, but Bonnett now another disappointing day as he heads towards pit road.
82 laps complete. 218 miles are down. Here's Neil Bonnett coming in. His chance of winning this race the second time. Coming up short. Field hauling down out of turn number 4. Terry Labonte in the number 44, staying very much in the hunt. Dale Inman doing a grand job. They've won a race this year out of Riverside, California, on the road course in a 400-kilometer event. There's Bobby Allison right back in the second position, the number 22 car, reviewing further back in the field. Now Bonnett on pit road, hood up. Tommy Ellis, the Virginia driver, is currently in 11th position in the overall standings. Ricky Rudd in the Bud Moore car is running 12th. Harry Gant, last week's winner, is running 13th. Greg Sachs is in 14th. 15th is Dave Marcus. And the 16th position is Trevor Boyce as we look further back. The 10th position right now is Lake Speed.
Good run for rookie Greg Sachs. He's one of the modified hot shoes from up in the Northeast. He makes his home out on Long Island, New York. But he almost didn't get started in this race because his car almost didn't fire. There's Sterling Marlin with smoke coming from underneath his car.
We've had 8 official retirees, including the Tim Richmond car of recent.
Now Labonte is low on the inside of the racetrack. Something must be amiss on the car number 44 as Allison goes by on the outside. And I don't think he would have made that move just anyway, although he looks like he's still running pretty good, Benny. Now Buddy Baker goes by on the outside, but you don't just make a move like that unless something maybe is wrong.
I would speculate he's on 7 cylinders. I just think that something happened to the engine and he backed off.
He's
back to Falls to 5th, to 6th. Baker back in front. The 28 car of Cale Yarborough coming to 2nd, and on the outside, here's the 95 Sterling Marlin car back in the garage area. Across the start-finish line. Baker back for 1st. Really needs a win here today. Here comes Cale Yarborough back on the outside, and Ron Bouchard is coming with him. Allison falls into 5th position. More live coverage of the Talladega 500 on CBS upcoming. That at the Alabama International Motor Speedway. You're watching live the battle for supremacy in the 16th annual Talladega 500. Taking a venture at first place, number 47. That is Ron Bouchard on the inside, and he almost swapped some paint, Ned, with Cale Yarborough, who continues to try to hold on to that lead. And here comes car number 5. That is Jeff Bodine into second place here today. And you're with Jeff Bodine in the second position as he follows Cale down into turn number 3. Jeff Bodine with his best run. He's come all the way from 28th position. And Bodine is now second. 89 laps complete when they come by this time. Let's get this word from Mike Joy.
You're looking at the broken distributor in Neil Bonnett's car. Neil, this is not the first time for this problem. You guys have had it before.
Well, we've been trying some different ignition systems to see if we can get the problem cured. And, you know, I don't know if that's what it is or not. The car kept getting slower and slower, and then it almost quit, so we got to change it.
There's a wire coil inside the distributor, and if 2 of those little wires short out, it's easy to have happen. It puts the whole distributor out of commission, so they're replacing it now. Let's go to Chris Economaki.
Batteries here. Okay, Buddy Baker, who led the race for so many laps, is about to stop here. The men servicing his car are the very famous Wood brothers, who have earned awards for quick pit stops for many, many years. Now, Glenn Wood out with a sign to guide Buddy to a stop here. We should be coming up moments. We have our stopwatch. The plans are to give him fuel, 2 tires, clean the windshield, and take care of whatever requirements driver Buddy Baker needs. And here he comes, heading down pit road. Our watch is ready in his number 21 Thunderbird. In they go, and the men are over the wall. Only 5 men allowed over the wall. The watch starts. There's the windshield. Men on the outside taking care of the work. And Baker himself wanting more of a cleaning job. He seems to be more primarily concerned. And
caution just coming out.
And there we go. 14 and 10/100 seconds. Back to you, Ken.
Oh, hard hit on car number 03. That is the Bouchard car from out of San Antonio, Texas. This youngster making a super speedway appearance. He's been running on the short tracks. His dad used to build the cars for Clarence Lovell that we saw on the Grand National Tour, and this youngster has just taken a savage head-on crash. Brings out the 4th caution of the day.
Donnie Allison is crew chief on that car, Ken, and thinks very highly of this young fellow.
Car number 03. Caution is out. This is Eddie Bierschwell of San Antonio, Texas. Chevrolet, entered by his dad and crew chief by Donnie Allison, has shot into the wall, and you can see tremendous damage on the front end of the machine.
They were just about ready for scheduled pit stops. Buddy Baker was in the pits, the first of the front runners to come in for a green flag pit stop. We see Bierswell as he spins around down on the grass. Not much traction once you get on that grass. It looks like the right wheel was almost off the ground. Then it hits the pavement and straightens up. Of course, he had already done the damage on the front end of the car as he got hard into the wall.
There lies car number 03.
I noticed his hand come up.
Driver.
I noticed his hand come up as he was spinning there, so he is okay, I believe.
Well, you can testify to the tremendous, just brute strength of a crash like that. As we saw you crash in almost the same place, but the side of the car went in on your car number 55 out here on Friday morning.
On Friday morning, he got the front end, I got the right side of the car, but it literally narrowed my car up about 4 inches, Kenny. It just made it 4 inches narrow, and I just couldn't believe what an impact that car took, and yet everything stayed together.
Under caution for the 4th time today in the Talladega 500. We'll be back with more live coverage of this Talladega 500 after this word from your local station. Once again, we're with you live here at the Alabama International Motor Speedway. Benny Parsons, Ned Jarrett, Ken Squire topside, Chris Economaki and Mike Joy in the pits to bring you all the action of the 16th running of this near $500,000 race, in which 93 laps have been completed, 247 miles as we get toward the halfway point. Terry Labonte is staying right up in the hunt, looking for his 2nd win of the season. All right, we're getting down to 96 laps complete of the 188. A rookie has crashed here hard, Eddie Bierschwell of San Antonio, Texas. Earlier we asked Darrell Waltrip, why do rookies have so many incidents at this track?
It's a track you can run around here at 195 to 200 miles an hour and feel pretty comfortable, feel like you got everything under control. therein lies the problem. It kind of lulls some of the drivers to sleep, particularly the younger ones that say, hey, I'm a race car driver. Look at me. I'm going 200. And those are the guys that this racetrack reaches out and bites real quickly.
At the Alabama International Motor Speedway, in the Talladega 500, Jeff Bodine has just appropriated first place. Cale Yarborough is running second. Darrell Waltrip is in third. Running fourth is Bill Elliott. Fifth is Ron Bouchard. Sixth is Harry Gant. In the seventh place is Trevor Boyce, and going eighth right now is Lake Speed. Here is a report on pit road from Mike Joy.
Well, Ken, at every other major speedway in the country, including Daytona, the start-finish line is located right across where I'm sitting, right at the midpoint of pit road in the tri-oval area, mid-distance between the two turns. And last year I stood here with Bud Moore as the cars came by, and his driver at the time, Dale Earnhardt, you could see him come by here, but you didn't know he'd won the race. Now, is that frustrating to stand here and not know what's happened, or does it just add to the suspense when you know the finish line is further down the racetrack?
Well, you know, when you come by, like I say, last year here when they come by to get the checker flag, we didn't know who won till they told us on the radio and exactly who won. So it is frustrating when we can't see the start-finish line, see who you won or where you didn't.
The reason they did that, Ken, the best seats are the ones right in front of pit road in the tri-oval. So when they built this track in 1969, to make those seats down near turn one more saleable, that's where they put the finish line, and it's made for some of the best racing in NASCAR history.
Well, Ned is an old promoter. That certainly makes sense, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Well, now we're over half the distance in the race. We've completed 97 laps, 255 miles are down. How's the field doing?
We have 21, amazingly, cars still in the lead lap. And we are past the halfway point. You know, there have been 10 different winners on the series, the circuit, so far this year, pointing up the type of competition that we have. I believe it's 11 different winners instead of 10, and still have 21 in the lead lap. Any one of those 21 are still capable of winning this race.
Let's take a look at how they stack up. Back in the 9th position, we just reviewed the first 8 for you. And car number 44 is in 9th, Labonte. Then in 10th is Rusty Wallace. Running 11th is car number 75, and the driver of that car is Dave Marcus. Going in the 12th position now is Ricky Rudd, and 14th is Buddy Baker. 13th is Buddy Baker. 14th is Tommy Ellis. The 15th position is now holding car number 15, the red car, and the Earnhardt car is in the 12th position. The 16th position is car number 52. With a change of drivers, Morgan Shepherd is there now for the injured Jimmy Means, injured down at Charlotte. Going 17th is Greg Sachs. And the 18th position, and in the lead lap is that youngster, that is Bobby Hillen. And 19th, a lap down, is Bobby Allison's car number 22. In 20th, being 2 laps down, is car number 71 they're reporting. They're showing Allison a lap down in this report we just had from scoring.
I believe that's incorrect right now. He had made a pit stop just a moment ago. In fact, he was lead. He stayed out on the track during this caution longer than most any others. Then he came in for a pit stop. So he should be still in the lead lap, but at the tail of the lead lap. So it's 19 instead of the 21 that are in the lead lap.
You're right, and they're just changing that and showing Allison now as the last car in that lead lap, and then back in 20th would be the Mike Alexander car. Let's see if we can get a word from Jeff Bodine, now leading in the event. He has come from 28th position to be out in front. Question is, Jeff, do you think you can hang around and be there at the end of 188 laps? Jeff Bodine?
Yeah, I hear you.
You think you can still be there, first place, when we get down to lap 188?
Well, our car isn't strong enough to run out front, but we can run with the lead cars in a draft. I'm sure on this restart, Cale, and a few guys will go by me, but we're going to try to hook on and just stay up front.
Car seems to be running very well. It did not qualify that well, Jeff, but right now, the way you've been moving up through the traffic, it looks like it's handling just about as good as you could want.
It is handled awful good. It's really beautiful. Harry Hyde's got this car to drive any place on a racetrack, and that's enabled me to go high or low and get up front. And, you know, we're just going to try to hang in there, and hopefully we'll be around at the end of this race.
Jeff, most of your past experience, winning experience, was on short tracks. How do you like running these 200-mile-an-hour laps?
I love it, the ball out here, especially when your car's handling good. It's really a lot of fun, but you've always got to remember just how fast you're going and try to keep your head about it. Don't get in trouble.
Jeff Bodine in car number 5, the leader, and you'll be with him when we come down for the restart shortly here this afternoon as we are finishing in the 4th caution period of the day. Here's Mike Joy.
I'm with Waddell Wilson, the man that put Cale Yarborough's car on the pole with that 202-mile-an-hour lap. Going around here over 200 miles an hour for one lap is something, but getting that car to work all day long, that's another story, isn't it?
Well, that's right. You know, qualifying's a race by itself, and then this is altogether different, and you have to change your chassis entirely, and we did some adjustments after the last practice yesterday, and I've asked him during the caution sessions, and Cale says the car is fine, so we haven't made any adjustments since the start of the race.
Well, isn't that kind of rare? I've seen your team, a race you won on CBS in Michigan, where you carried our camera, and you were in there cranking on those wedge bolts every pit stop. That's got to be a little different for you.
Well, you know, if the driver's complaining, you got to do everything you can to help him. So as long as he don't complain, that suits me fine. And I feel like we're in good shape.
Back upstairs.
Restart. Bodine up in front. Interesting situation here. Allison pitted for just a few drops of fuel. That's going to put him out of sync with the rest of the field, and it could, Ned, make a difference at the end.
Could very well. We saw Buddy Baker in the pits just as the caution came out. He did not lose a lap, but maybe if they can go a few extra laps and catch a caution, that could make the difference.
Bodine running first. There you see the Petty car. Remember, it is several laps down. Cale Yarborough back for the lead on the inside. The number 28 car pulling alongside, and they go wheel to wheel for turn number 3 and go up on the side of the barrel.
Yarborough wasted no time in putting that Chevrolet back out front. He's been up near the front, in front, or near the front all day, and now we're seeing Waltrip get into the picture. He really hasn't been up there that much today.
Waited for halfway, and now Waltrip begins to show his strength, as he did yesterday in the IROC race, where he laid 4th or 5th most of the afternoon, and then came alive in the last 2 or 3 laps, and particularly in the final lap. Waltrip now in 2nd, trying to win it 3 times. No one else has won it more than once, with the exception of Darrell Waltrip. Waltrip, the only 2-time winner of this race.
He's a master at the drafting, and you see him move right up on Cale Yarborough's bumper. Now, it'd be interesting to see if he wants to take the lead. I don't think he's led a lap yet today, and would not have received the 5 bonus points that goes along with it. And, of course, he's right in the thick of the battle for the championship.
3rd place, Bodine. 4th place, Bouchard. He has stayed up in there. Inside again. Labonte in the shuffle. 5 strong.
We saw Neil Bonnett's car being worked on earlier. He's back out in the running, but he lost 10 laps while in the pit, so he's out of the running as far as the win's concerned, but has a good chance of picking up some money and some points.
There's Neil Bonnett.
There's Tommy Ellis, the guy we talked about at the top of the show, moving right around Richard Petty, and he's following Dale Earnhardt, so Ellis is still in this thing, the rookie from Richmond, Virginia.
And he is having just a wonderful run today. Another lead change coming up. Here's Yarborough and Waltrip at it, side by side. Tommy Ellis said he never knew the fellow who hired him to drive that car. He called him up on the phone one Sunday night, and it took him till Wednesday to agree to drive. Boy, it certainly changed the image of Tommy Ellis, and he's doing a marvelous job in Grand National.
Well, here's one guy that really has taken his hard knocks in racing, Ken, and he deserved a ride in Grand National, and a good one. He is a good race driver.
Anybody that can knock around with Ray Hendrick for the many years that he did down there on those Virginia circuits, you know he's got to be tough to exist. And he won 19 races in a row one year, 28 or 29 in all.
Very tough competitor. They get that speed back up there over 200 miles an hour on that last lap. Bodine is able to hang right in there. Of course, he said he'd be able to do that. He figured that Yarborough would move around him. You heard him say that, and sure enough, it happened, but he's able to pick up the draft and stay right there with him. There's that Bill Elliott car back there in 4th place. He's been right there all afternoon.
Can't get a picnic plate in between any of those cars, running the front 6 positions. And Baker goes down to the inside, and he's trying to loop back up around and get himself back in this race. Taking the bottom side and picking up a spot. He's up behind Bouchard now.
Another driver that normally runs real strong here, the 5th place car in line there is Lake Speed, car number 1. He's had some good runs here in Talladega.
And he's had some good runs on a lot of tracks, and he is bound to pull one off soon. Now we're looking back at the Bill Elliott car that rested on the outside of the front row for this event. He'll be around at the finish. They build good, strong engines. Be very surprised if we don't see him part of this act down at the end. How about it, Benny Parsons?
As a matter of fact, Bill Elliott Wednesday blew an engine, Ken, and we are 17, 18 races into the season. That's the first engine he's lost this year. Just an unbelievable record for any team.
Tribute to his brother Ernie and the fellows who put those things together.
Exactly, it sure is. Ernie Elliott and Dan, his brothers, does a super job.
On they come down to the main straightaway. Elliott trying to break through. There's Ron Bouchard's wife. She's scoring for them this afternoon.
She's always in the pits. They had a little race, that's Paula Bouchard, a little race last week for the ladies in a different kind of cars up in Pocono, Pennsylvania, and she won that thing. Of course, her dad was a famous race driver, too, Ed Klimke, from up in the Northeast, who had many, many wins in modified competition.
Got trouble in turn number 4. There's a smoker up in turn number 4. It's 52. That would be the Morgan Shepherd car, easing back onto pit road.
Well, a tough break here. Jimmy Means owns that car. Of course, Jimmy normally drives it, but as you mentioned earlier, he was injured at Charlotte in a wreck, and he's had several different drivers in the car, but it looks like the engine has let go on that car here, and the caution is out once again. Morgan Shepherd, a tough luck driver, another of the guys who's taken the hard knocks in the sport, former national champion in the sportsman division, but he's just having tough luck here today.
5th caution of the day. Caution number 5 as the engine erupts on Morgan Shepherd's car number 52. Cale Yarborough deployed in first. Can he stay there to win the Talladega 500 for the first time in his career? He's won 81 races, won the national title 3 times. You've seen him in those brilliant victories at Daytona, but this race has always evaded his efforts. Now, 106 laps have been completed this afternoon in our live coverage of the Talladega 500, and we'll have more in a moment. Here at the Alabama International Motor Speedway, 108 laps are now in the book of 188 to be run. 287 miles have thus far been erased from this race. And we're watching car number 9, Bill Elliott, take the lead. Here is Mike Joy standing by with Ernie Elliott.
Ken, when the caution flag comes out, the pit crews can go about their job a little more leisurely, take the time to change 4 tires, and almost everybody did that. Not the Elliots. Ernie, why not?
Well, we just put 4 new tires on just a few laps back, and you know there was really no need to change tires now. The car's handling good, and the tire wear is real good. And you know we felt like that, you know, just to get the car and get in and out and get back up toward the front of the pack, you know, was more of a benefit right now than it was to change tires. So you know we just didn't see changing tires was necessary.
What was the reaction back in Dahlonega and Dawsonville when you folks won on Father's Day here on CBS?
Well, it was pretty good, you know. We sure enjoyed the win, I can tell you that.
Best of luck to you today.
Thank you very much.
Are you superstitious, Ned?
Not really.
Well, how about this? Now, there have been 15 previous races, and the man on the outside, that's been the hottest position here. 5 times the man from the outside of the front row has won it. Bobby Allison won it from there in '71, and Buddy Baker and Donnie Allison. A little assistance the year that he won it from Darrell Waltrip, Neil Bonnett, and Darrell Waltrip himself in 1982. No other position except 4th. They've had a couple of winners from there, but 5 times the winner has come from 2nd place.
Well, if that's the indication, Bill Elliott's got to be feeling pretty good right now that his chances, of course, he's sitting up front at the moment. As we get the 1-lap signal, we'll be going back to green as they come around the next time. And the fans might wonder, they saw the engine go up in smoke on Morgan Shepherd's car. He didn't wreck, no other cars wrecked. They wondered, well, why did they need to bring the caution out? Lots of times, and in this case in particular, oil, water, other debris comes from underneath the car when the engine lets go, and so they need to clean the track up because it is a hazard to the other drivers.
Ready for a restart. Bill Elliott in front, Baker 2nd, Gant 3rd. Jeff Bodine, line 4th. A monumental month, this month of July in motorsport. It began with that great race at the Meadowlands with the Indianapolis cars successfully bringing big league racing back to the New York area. And then, of course, on the 4th of July at Daytona Beach, Richard Petty won his 200th race, and no less a personage than the President of the United States there to honor Petty as well as the entire sport. And Formula One had a tremendous success in Dallas, and here today near 100,000 people enjoying this great racing classic. It's been a great month, I think, when they look back over the years. 1984. And this month of July, Ned, will be one of the more important.
Oh, there's no doubt about it, Ken. It's just been a historic month in the sport of auto racing.
Did you have fun interviewing the president?
Oh, it was just a treat that I could never expect in life, and one that certainly that I'll never forget.
All right, we're getting set for a restart. We've had 5 caution periods. Attrition continues to build. 11 cars are now out, with the latest retiree being the Morgan Shepherd car. Field is coming down. The slow cars are on the inside. Fast cars are on the outside for the restart. They'll come down to complete lap 110, 292 miles, and we begin to get within sight of the finish of this race. 188 laps the mark in this 2.6-mile track. Still, we have some 19 cars running in the lead lap. The Sweet Thunder moves into turn number 1 as Elliott gets a little bit of a breather there, about 4 car lengths. That'll go away in a hurry.
That's Phil Parsons down on the inside. This is the first time on a restart, again, I think that we've had a Ford up front. Apparently it didn't accelerate quite as well as the General Motors cars because Phil Parsons was able to move away. Even though Phil was several laps down, he had a drive shaft problem earlier.
Neil Bonnett taking a lap back, and here comes Baker meaning business. Baker going into first place as he squeezes through off the left automobile.
Give him a little bit of a hole and he'll move right in it.
Buddy Baker now first. And look at that jam session coming out of turn number 4. Down the line, Baker first, Elliott second, and Ford's line up 1 and 2. And all of a sudden, here comes Harry Gant. The Haldane Burt Reynolds car is up into third. Harry Gant, who won last week in a tremendous battle with Cale Yarborough at Pocono, Pennsylvania in that 500-mile race. Here comes Gant back into it. He has not been a factor until now. Let's see if he'll stay there.
He hasn't been a factor, but he has run well all day long, certainly stayed in the lead lap. But now maybe he has just been holding back a little bit. Here's Bobby Allison trying to come back on the inside once again. But 2 of the cars that Gant battled with down to the wire. Bill Eller was one of them last week in Pocono. And, of course, as you mentioned, Cale Yarborough, and they're certainly still in the thick of it. If he wins today, he'll have to battle those 2 plus about half a dozen others.
The leaders swarm through the tri-oval down to the start-finish line another time. The Talladega Express with Bodine there in 4th. There's Bill Elliott in 2nd. Looking over the shoulder of Buddy Baker, the man in 1st at 200 miles an hour. I like the sign on the back of that. Have you driven one of those cars lately? Not at that speed.
And we wouldn't advise it either.
No, sir, but the blue lights couldn't catch you. Here's Bill Elliott pulling in. Moving up. Now 1 car length back. Back in 11th is Bouchard. 12th is Waltrip on the restart, and Cale then was 13th, and 14th was Bobby Hillen, who's having a very good run today. Kid from Midland, Texas.
A youngster who has Jake Elder as the crew chief on the car, certainly one of the top crew chiefs in the business, and boy, they bunch up again for the lead.
Scrambling down through 3 and 4, or rather through 1 and 2.
This is the first time that Gant has put his car up front, so maybe he's holding back a little bit.
Maybe he has been holding back a little bit, Ned, because it is the first time he's been in the lead all day. And he looked pretty strong going for the lead just then.
Travis Carter car looking very strong now.
A lot of times after pit stops, again, they do make adjustments on the chassis of the cars, and that will help them to look much stronger as they come back out.
Last lap, 199.08 miles per hour. Look at them ricochet in that draft. 44 Labonte right there in that Dale Inman car.
Bill Elliott saw that hole down there, but he wasn't about to make the move to go down there. Here comes Dale Earnhardt getting back into the picture. Haven't seen much of him here recently, but he'll be there.
Flat foot all the way around. Car number 9 just not lifting as you hear that motor work. Gant in front. You think he has the horsepower to stay there in the last lap like Cale Yarborough does, Benny Parsons?
I don't think there's probably anybody there that has the horsepower that Cale Yarborough does. But I don't know that horsepower is going to be all it's going to take. It's going to take a lot of strategy and being at the right place. Cale Yarborough seems to have the knack of being at the right place as well as horsepower.
There you are with Jeff Bodine. There's Lake Speed in the number 1 car just inside of him. Just making those easy little moves at 200 miles an hour. You don't want to make any big moves here.
Again, we've talked about the competition, the lead changes we've had here. Now, Buddy Baker has led more laps than anybody else. He's been in the lead 13 different times for 22 laps. That's not much.
Tommy Ellis has come back up to 4th position. Sonny Hutchins, Ray Hendricks, are you listening? turn number 3. A lot of enthusiasm there. Do you think it's for Allison?
There's a hole. Is he going to go there? Yes, he is. Moving right up on the outside, moving around. Tommy Ellis trying to pick up the draft of Blake Speed in the car number 1, and he does it very nicely.
Blake Speed back again. He has to win a race pretty soon. Does a little dance up there. Turn 2. Working the 117th of 188 laps. Gant back in 4th position. Freckle-faced enthusiast there.
They really get into it. And Earnhardt, as we saw him earlier in this race, he was dominant, perhaps more so than any other driver, even though Buddy Baker's led more laps than anybody. But Earnhardt was right there in the early part of the going. But for the last 75 miles, or last 75 laps, haven't seen that much of him. But here he is again.
Former Grand National Champion, former Rookie of the Year. Working his way back into the lead, looking for win number 10 to become the first man in history to win this race back-to-back. Live flag-to-flag coverage today on CBS. And we still have some 18 cars all in the struggle for the front-running position. Earnhardt Chevrolet is right there, the Richard Childress prepared car. Down into turn number 3, and here comes Baker right with him. And he's beginning to show some legs on that car, Benny Parsons.
He really is. Terry Labonte is in 3rd place right now. He ain't passed Terry again, and Bobby Allison going down the back straightaway. So it looks like Labonte is going to be put on a pretty serious challenge for the lead.
Back they come to the tri-oval. Across the line, down into turn number 1. There you see Allison on the inside, and on the outside is Lake Speed. As you stay with Bill Elliott's car, here's a report from Chris Economaki.
Well, with some 70 laps of racing remaining, Buddy Baker in a Ford will have to make 2 pit stops for fuel. But Bobby Allison and a lot of the other Chevy engine drivers will only have to make 1 pit stop. So what the people in the Ford pits are hoping for is a yellow flag so they can get 1 free one. Back to you, Ken.
5 cautions to date in the 16th running of the near $500,000 Talladega 500. Baker first, Earnhardt second, and coming to 3rd moves Terry Labonte with Harry Gant in 4th, and now there's a switch up front. Baker taking a shot at it, and we see Labonte down to the inside of the blue and white number 44 making his move. Gaggle of cars ripping through there. You see the number 5 of Bodine hanging on to Cale Yarborough, and Trevor Boyce in the 48. And that's the James Hilton prepared car. Remember, James Hilton won a race here in this Talladega 500. There's Trevor Boyce out of Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and right by him, 1972, Hilton won this race. Trevor Boyce would sure like to pull it off, and he stayed right up there in the lead lap this afternoon.
He's done a very good job. He's a very determined young man, Ken, and he doesn't mind getting up there and mixing up with them either.
Earnhardt. Labonte to the outside. Now Labonte was in that photo finish back in 1981 that Bouchard won. Remember, he was on the high side, Waltrip in the middle. And Bouchard snuckered him.
Yes,
right down on the inside.
Labonte was in the thick of another 4-car battle here, and another one of those close finishes at Talladega.
How's the Earnhardt car running? Here's the story from Mike Joy.
Well, Ken, Chris reported that some of the Chevrolet engine cars can go the distance on 1 more pit stop. But Richard Childress, your car is going to be close on gas.
Yeah, with us out front right now, it is. We may stay out there a few laps and then try to, if it looks like we're going to need some gas, we may fall back a little bit and hold it, but it's going to be real close.
You may be able to make it on 1 pit stop, but not if he stays out front.
No, not right now. We're just going to watch and see what happens, and we'll tell him what it looks like about 20 laps into this run.
And when he says staying out front, he's burning more fuel than those fellas running behind him, because as we saw earlier, Bill Elliott was able to decelerate. We talked about it a little bit. When you're running in the thick of the cars, you can't accelerate fully all the time, and Benny Parsons, that does conserve fuel.
It does conserve fuel, because when that throttle is wide open, it's taking the maximum amount of fuel. When you back off the throttle, it doesn't take in quite as much.
Last lap, 198.2 miles per hour.
Dale Earnhardt's getting his wish because Terry Labonte has taken the lead. He's going to be able to draft now.
And here comes Harry Gant. Gant the inside. Consistent driver. Now you're beginning to see a three-car rush, and Baker went right down to the apron to annex second place again. Buddy Baker, the number 21, scooted right down to the bottom of the track, and that is not recommended.
Certainly the car is working, or he wouldn't be able to make that kind of a move.
Here comes Waltrip around number 9, Elliott. This is going to look like the International Race of Champions, the way it's building right now at the finish net.
Unbelievable. Still about 19 cars running in the lead lap. There's some good cars out there that are still running that have had their problems. As we mentioned, Neil Bonnett is 10 laps down. Phil Parsons lost 23 laps. Richard Petty lost 32 laps. Kyle Petty is 11 laps down there after having some overheating problems. Buddy Harrington is still running strong, but he's 3 laps off the pace. And Steve Moore, who started in the shotgun position here, is currently running in 5 laps down.
As you look at the leaders, let's review back a little further in the field. The 6th place is Allison. The 7th place is Bouchard. The 8th place is Cale, and they're swapping back and forth in there. 9th, Ellis. The 10th spot had been, the 10th spot is now that 48 car. He was back to 14th, and back comes Trevor Boyce again, and Elliott has been pushed back to 11th. And also up in that group is the car number 51, the Greg Sachs car, in 12th.
And then Jeff Bodine would be right behind him. Phil Parsons is in there, but he's, as we mentioned, is several laps down.
Average speed is 147.7. There's Rusty Wallace in the number 88 car,
who had a super run last week at Pocono, Pennsylvania. He finished in 6th position in the lead lap. Just was the top finishing rookie and qualified well here. Started in the 10th position and has run well all day.
Back up in front, still another lead change. Labonte for first. Baker trying the inside, nosing up in there, and then coming back as they swap back and forth by just a few feet now and then. Those aren't official lead changes. Labonte has it for the moment. Baker for second.
What he would like to do right now, he sees about a little bit of daylight back to Dale Earnhardt's car. He was right up on Labonte's bumper there. He'd like to see if they could hook up and pull away from the rest of the field, but I don't think that's going to happen at this point.
Cale Yarborough that time, Ken, up in the 3rd and 4th corner was extremely high, up in the gray area, the place that many cars run. I think it's because when he gets cars in front of him, behind him, he moves around a little bit. His car is not handling as well, and therefore there is traction in that gray area because no one's been there. There's a tremendous amount of traction.
Elliott scooting down below. Car number 33, Gannon, closing on late speed. Elliott beginning to wind them in another time and not gaining ground on that inside. That's not the way to go through. In fact, he loses ground again.
He certainly does. He pushed him back 2 positions instead of gaining him one. He's going to try it again. Doesn't give up. Moves right around Waltrip now, pulling up on Harry again down on the inside. He had the momentum as he went into turn 3, but let's see if he's able to hang up there with it. He's staying even with Gant right now. In fact, gaining a little bit on him as they come off the 4th turn. Now Gant begins to pull away a little bit.
Pictures are just remarkable. Watching Harry Gant tending right to his knitting, and that car number 33 as alongside came Bill Elliott. Up in front, 2 cars are trying to draw away. Last lap, how about this net? 199.9.
As strong as they were running at the start of the race.
199 mile an hour average at last lap for number 44, Terry Labonte, and dragging right along with him, number 21, Buddy Baker. Then comes Earnhardt, number 3.
I would say that Baker is definitely trying to conserve fuel right now because he had made a pit stop earlier than anyone else had during the green flag stop, and he knows that he's not getting that good a gas mileage today. Normally, on this kind of a racetrack, they can go about 100 miles on a tank of fuel, but when you're running at that kind of a speed, it makes it awfully hard to get that kind of mileage.
Cale Yarborough going to 4th. Here's Richard Petty with that familiar towel in his mouth. A little moisture there. Car that will go to the Smithsonian following today's race. The car that won the Firecracker 400 the 4th of July at the Daytona International Speedway and recorded the 200th career win for this man, Richard Petty, in car number 43. Taking the last ride with old 43.
Now the fans might wonder, well, why would he race that car in other races? The car was built especially for Daytona and Talladega, the super high-speed racetracks. There are little characteristics about this car that simply wouldn't work when you get to some of the shorter tracks like they'll be running for the rest of the year.
A little bit like riding the Spirit of St. Louis. Not quite, but a little. Flavor of history going with you there as you ride with Richard Petty. Of course, getting an opportunity to be in the chair beside the king, that's a thrill unto itself, whether he's running first or 31st. Baker going for the lead, and there goes Ellis again, and he's working with Trevor Boyce, and there's Phil Parsons. Little brother's doing pretty well out there today, Benny.
He's keeping up there, and he's learning a great deal. As Ned mentioned a moment ago, he did have a drive shaft problem. He's a lot of laps down, but he's getting invaluable experience out there.
This is the track where Phil Parsons crashed going down to the turn 1 in the race they have here in May and rolled over about 9 times, and one car went absolutely underneath him. And he's right back out. It doesn't seem to bother him a tad.
Doesn't seem to bother him a bit. It bothered me that day, I'll tell you that.
Tommy Ellis, number 4. 36 years old, stays right there, right up in the hunt. 9th position unofficially right now. Long back straightaway and into number 3. This looks like you can go forever going down that back straightaway.
It really looks like as you come off the second corner and go down, it seems like you can go almost forever because it is such a long way down to turn 3.
It doesn't really take you long, though.
But it really don't take you long to get there.
7 or 8 seconds. Terry Labonte's crew checking, concerned about the fuel. Cale Yarborough has the lead. Cale back in front, still knocking on the door that is never opened, and giving him victory lane here in the Talladega 500. More live in a moment. Less than 150 miles to the finish of the 16th annual Talladega 500, live today on CBS as you watch Cale Yarborough trying to win it for the first time. Terry Labonte also trying to pull it off for his first career win in this great race, in the 2nd position. And then the man that won it last year lies 3rd, Dale Earnhardt. Going 4th is Ron Bouchard, the 81 winner. And next in line comes Bobby Allison. Allison running in 5th, going 6th currently is Harry Gant. 7th is Lake Speed. The 8th position falls to Buddy Baker. 9th is Waltrip. 10th, Tommy Ellis. Going 11th, Bill Elliott. 12th is the Jeff Bodine car. 13th is Trevor Boyce. And running 14th is Greg Sachs. One more fuel stop for sure for all of them. Average speed 147 miles an hour. No records today as we've been interrupted 5 times in the course of the race. Let's go to Mike Joy with Dale Inman.
Well, Kev, they're hoping it will only be one more fuel stop. In the Terry Labonte pit, a big strategy conversation looking at the lap charts. If they can stay behind Cale Yarborough, they'll conserve enough fuel that they know they can go this race and finish on just one fuel stop. But if Labonte goes out and runs in the lead, they'll have to stop twice. So he is laying back a bit, and that may be true of some other drivers a little further back in the field.
The report on the driver of car number 03, Eddie Barshwell of San Antonio, Texas, is that he's okay, Ned.
Well, that's
he's
good.
Come out. They took him over to the hospital.
He took a very hard lick against the wall, but as we pointed out before, these cars are constructed so well. They build in every possible safety feature into them, and when they hit the wall that hard, it's always good to hear that the driver is okay.
There's that long back straightaway. Good place to pass going into 3, Benny Parsons, as at Daytona right here.
This is absolutely the best place on the racetrack to pass. And when it comes down to the last lap, I would expect that any driver trying to win the race would make his move, going down the back straightaway in turn 3, and simply try to hold the second place car off as they come through the draw to the start-finish line.
But with the start-finish line down as far to turn 1 as it is, that's where the passing seems to have taken place in the past. So maybe moving in, doing it on turn 3 might be a little early.
It may be, but, you know, look, I'm the wrong one to ask because, believe me, I don't know where to be on the last lap. I've proved it time and time again.
Well, I'll tell you, from race to race, it does change, and it'll be interesting today to see who gets themselves in what position at the end.
Labonte closes up, pitches in on car number 28, Cale Yarborough, and here comes number 3, Earnhardt as well. Boy, those speeds, those individual laps, all over 195 miles per hour throughout the afternoon. And race here at Talladega, Alabama. Cale in front.
Well, again, you know, the early part of the race, the first half of the race, these guys were racing for the fun of it. They were racing to race, to outrun the other guy, to prove that their car was as good as anyone else's. Now they're racing to win, to take the checker flag first. And it is an unbelievable chess game going on right now. Buddy Baker, I am so impressed. He backed up Ned to 8th place to conserve fuel, because he's going to conserve more fuel there than he is in 2nd and 3rd.
He certainly will, and that's sort of uncharacteristic for Buddy Baker, because he's a charger. He likes to run up front, but he's also smart.
He also wants to win, and that's what they're doing right now. Every one of those 19 cars is trying to figure out how to win.
360 degrees off our fire ladder camera as we work the 138th lap, and we will have completed 367 miles, about 133 left to go.
Heat sometimes is a factor at this race. Has not been a factor here today. It's an ideal day for racing, particularly at Talladega in July. They're able to run the high speeds that we've been seeing here all day long, and also but surprising, I should say, is that the attrition rate has been rather high with the good conditions that we have here. It's overcast, and the temperature is perhaps in the low 80s, which is really good. But I guess the speeds that they're running out here today has helped to cause the attrition.
You see the wind just wobbling a tad as they come off that 4th turn. Kenny Reagan, driving only his 23rd race in his whole career, running to that lead lap. He led 1 lap earlier today. First race he's ever led. Good, consistent racer.
He came here a couple of years ago, and the first race that he ever ran was here at Talladega. Now, Benny Parsons and I started on some of the dirt tracks before we started racing, and that's what's usually recommended. You don't go to the fastest racetrack in the world, but Kenny Reagan did it and did well at it.
Another one of those people that believes in the old nothing to unlearn, that old line.
Yes.
Now there's the leader. Yarborough is there at issue. Can he stay there? Last year he stayed up there most of the way, then he cracked ahead on the car. He's finished 2nd in this race twice.
As you know, Ned a moment ago just mentioned that Kenny Reagan did in fact come here for his first race. And there has people that did do that and got away with it. But there's also other people that paid a supreme price for doing it, because it does take a tremendous amount of experience to compete at these speeds.
Well, it's so easy to drive this track, but I think the point Darrell Waltrip made earlier, this is a track that can bite you, because if it happens so quickly. You don't rely on reactions, you have to rely on instinct here. There's Ken Reagan in the car number 77, who's been lying 17th over the past 15, 20 laps.
He's a car dealer from over Unadilla, Georgia. Very nice fellow and very determined young man.
Talk about determination. Look at the squadron up in front. Now there's an enthusiast. You can tell by the hat who she's for.
Well, we're in Alabama, and Bobby Allison's in Alabama.
Hey, those pictures of the grandstand give you an idea of what could be the newest aerobic exercise. Just buy a seat in the grandstand and get up and down for 188 laps. Baker in the pits.
And as he did earlier, came in before anyone else. He just simply is not getting the gas mileage that some of the others are. Perhaps they'll be able to go 6, 7, or maybe as many as 10 laps. Gets to change the right side tires. Good pit stop. The Wood brothers are among the best.
Got trouble in the back straightaway. Car number 28, Cale Yarborough, coming around it is car 51, Greg Sachs. In the back straightaway has lost an engine.
And the
caution is out.
Amazingly, they'll be racing back to the flag as Cale Yarborough. Of course, it doesn't do a whole lot to lead this lap as they come back to the front.
They've all stepped out of it. That's the 2nd time for Baker. He just pitted, and then the caution comes out.
But with the good work
of caution, send Baker in.
Yeah, I guess. The good work of the Wood brothers did get him back out. He'll stay in the lead lap. A tough break for Greg Sachs, who had run a super race here today. Kept himself up there in the lead pack. He's a rookie on this circuit. But to run this long and that hard, still in position to get himself a good finish or even perhaps a win. Anybody that's still in that lead lap is still a potential winner in this race, but now his hopes go up in smoke.
Cecil Gordon, crew chief on car 51, a man who ran many races himself on this track. Greg Sachs, number 51. So we should see the leaders coming in now, and the activity will all be on pit road. Mike Joy will be standing by, changing tires. They put the hood down.
That's surprising. We thought the engine blew with all that smoke. Now, it could have been a filter or something.
It could have blown the oil line off or something like that, because they looked like they were planning on fixing the car and going back on the racetrack. They were changing tires.
Leaders coming in. This is happening in the 143rd lap. Here's Mike Joy.
Ready to head to pit road. Waddell Wilson has 4 tires up for Cale Yarborough. Now, they looked carefully at Baker's pit stop to see if he got 4 tires or just gas, just as the caution came out. Cale stays a bit far out from the wall, and they go to the right side first. Richard Bostic with the car up in the air. Joey Knuckles changing the right front tire. No chassis change. They have not changed the wedge on the chassis all day. Now everybody comes around. Bostic with that 65-pound jack, and they will change the left side tires. Let's go to Chris Economaki.
Well, this pit stop came at the right time to equalize this race. There's 37 laps to make 100 miles here. There's 43 laps to go. Unlikely that any car can get 43 laps on 1 tank of fuel. So now it's a brand new automobile race. It's like one of those basketball games where the score is 100 even with 5 minutes to go. They'll all have to make one more pit stop, and the pit crews could win or lose it for the drivers today. Back to you, Ken.
Now we're down to it. Put prudence aside now.
There's been some cars that's gotten awfully good gas mileage this year. They're pushing Bodine's car down pit road. He has some sort of a problem. He's been right up in the thick of the battle all day, but as we've seen several times here today, after pit stops, they have problems as they go back out, but it seems to be in the firing of the engine this time, not in the drivetrain as we saw earlier. Apparently he's got it going. But the point I was about to make, Ken, wouldn't surprise me. Depending on the length of this caution, we might see some or maybe all of them come back in just to top off the fuel tank for that extra lap or 2 that they might get. But Bobby Allison has got extremely good gas mileage on numerous occasions this year, and so has Cale Yarborough. If there's anybody's going to make it all the way from here, I'd say it'd be one of those 2.
Or how about Travis Carter's cars? Travis was saying he was getting as much range as anyone on car 33, and if he thought it got to that kind of a contest, he could be in good shape. We'll be back with you again in just a moment for the conclusion of today's Talladega 500. More live coverage of the Talladega 500 after this word from your local station. We're back with you live at the Alabama International Motor Speedway inside Jeff Bodine's car. Jeff, what happened to you after you came off pit road that time, or as you came out of the pits?
Yeah, we ran out of gas on that caution lap just before we entered the pits, and the car wouldn't start. They had to push it. We're okay now, but it just wouldn't start. It didn't have any gas.
Boy, you talk about a caution coming at the right time. It did for you then, didn't it?
Right, we were going to pit anyway that next lap, but when we slowed down and got up on that banking, the little fuel we had left went away from the pickup, and we ran out.
Jeff, how do you feel about your chances at this point now?
Well, the car's handling awful good. If we could just avoid some trouble and just hang in there, I think we have a chance at a good finish. There's a lot of cars that are a lot faster and stronger than we are. We can't get out in front and go, but you never know on that last lap here at Talladega.
Are you going to have to make another pit stop for fuel?
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you very much. Jeff Bodine in car number 5, currently running 15th. Terry Labonte coming back on the track. Interesting circumstance on Travis Carter's car, the number 33, Benny.
Travis has a fuel flow meter on Harry's car that tells how much liquid has went through this meter. In other words, Harry can sit there and watch the thing and tell when they've used 21 gallons of gas. And here, that's about all they can pick up. It'd probably be 21 to 21 and a half gallons. So when he gets to 21, he tells them I'm coming in. Quite an innovation, it really is. I think Ron Bouchard is on pit road right now with some trouble, Kim.
Car 47. Ron Bouchard still on pit road as the field is gathered up for a restart, and Bouchard's hopes in this race may be plummeting right here.
Okay, well, he gets it to going, so he's going to remain in the lead lap. He's going to have to run hard to catch the field as it's moving into turn 3 now. Of course, we're still under caution, but the green's scheduled to come out when they come around this time.
Actually, if he builds up a head of steam down that back straightaway, it could be a little bit of an advantage for him.
Could be. He might be running 190 miles an hour where they're accelerating from 75.
Want to be very careful with a bowling ball like that at that speed. Now, there you see the point standings. With Dale Earnhardt up in first, Bill Elliott is second, Labonte third, and Waltrip back in fourth place.
but still not too far out of the lead. Again, less than 100 points separating him from the lead, so it's a very tight battle as we get ready for a very tight race here.
And Earnhardt will be in front with Bobby Allison, as you see in the white. Number 22 in second spot. Third is Waltrip. Fourth is Cale. Fifth is Gant. Sixth is Elliott. Seventh is Speed. Eighth is Baker on the restart. Here's Elliott. Watching the meters on Bill Elliott's car as they scramble. Pulls up on Harry Gant. Old rev counter climbing on it. That's not altitude. See the fuel meter on that car.
Yeah, he has one of those things down there too, Penny.
Them boys from up Dahlonega, Georgia surprised me with their knowledge.
There are no secrets that last more than 24 hours.
That's exactly right, Ken.
Allison for the moment, down low. That move by Gant as he scoots around. Strategy report as we see Earnhardt going back in front, and here comes Bodine. Bodine onto pit road, something amiss on car number 5, and he's going right back to the garage area. Unfortunate situation for Jeff Bodine.
Let me tell you what happens when you run out of fuel. At the RPMs that these engines are turning, when you run out of fuel, you instantly get air in there and no fuel, and you burn a piston. You just lift the top right off the piston because it gets so hot. Running out of fuel is the worst thing you can do to one of these engines.
Had a driver replacement. Greg Sachs has replaced Ken Reagan in car 77. Reagan was overcome by fumes and he was groggy in the pit area, so Greg Sachs has taken over in car number 77. Strategy report. Here's Chris Economaki.
Well, down along pit road, fuel again becomes the story. These are the men in Bobby Allison's pit with their little calculators and computers. Allison has been getting great gas mileage this year, and they say they think they can make it. They're going to try without another pit stop. Buddy Baker's pit crew says there's no way they can go 43 laps on one tank of gas. They know they're going to have to stop again. And Tommy Ellis and his crew, they're happy up there. They don't know whether they can make it or not, but they say they're going to try, and let come what may, come what may. Back to you, Ken.
149 laps completed this time by of 188. 149, 396 miles down. There's Petty, still determined, still trying, well off the pace.
Well, Bodine, we saw him coasting into the garage area, and Mike Joy is with him.
Jeff Bodine in the garage area, not the place you wanted to end this afternoon. What happened?
Engine let go. We're running so darn good. The car was handling great. Hi, everybody back home, Rick. But you just let go on that restart. We ran out of gas. I don't know if we burned a piston when we ran out of gas and then it broke or what, but everything was going so good that, it's really a shame.
Boy, do you look hot.
No, it's not too bad, Mike. I was having a ball. The car handled so good. It drove so good I could go high or low, and I was just having a good time out there. And it isn't too hot. It's very comfortable. But here we are.
Well, he's won 2 short track races, Ken, but he'll get to luxuriate in the garage the rest of this afternoon.
Dale Earnhardt, Kannapolis, North Carolina, leads. 9 career wins. Will this be number 10? Waltrip into second, knocking on the door. First turn. Yarborough third.
Earnhardt hasn't won so far in 1984, Ken, even though he's leading the point standings.
Here he is out of turn number 2. Earnhardt, who won this race a year ago. The car has been getting stronger all the time.
Again, I tell you what, you're looking at a lot of cars, bumper to bumper, that can win this race, that has the car, that has the crew, that has the ability to win this race. And where the winner's going to come from is anybody's guess.
Earnhardt first drove in this race in 1978 for Will Cronkite and finished 12th. Now he's leading. 150 laps have been completed. More in a moment. Averaging 196 miles an hour in the last lap. Dale Earnhardt stays in front. Buddy Baker has meandered up the third. Here he is coming to the inside, making a move. Baker down low, now pulls up and battles for first place going into turn number 1. Nearly 100,000 people on their feet watching 16 drivers competing for first place. Ned, remember when you won the Southern 500 and you won it by 14 laps? My, how times have changed.
They certainly have, Ken. It's unbelievable that you still have. And any one of these 16 cars, as Benny said earlier, are still capable of winning this race out here. And I think Benny said he finished second at Darlington one time, was 12 or 13 laps down.
I was 13 laps down. David Pearson won the race, and I was 13 laps down in second.
Just doesn't happen anymore.
Bumper to bumper, 200-mile-per-hour expressway action here at Talladega, Alabama, live today on CBS. Coming up next, the Greater Hartford golf action next on CBS. This crowd just so appreciative of the tremendous effort by all of these great drivers. And Baker, with some of the wildest driving, is just eased up through. He really makes the others pay attention to what he's doing.
Tell you, he has put that car in some holes today that you wouldn't think it would go in, but the car has to be working perfectly for him to be able to do that. Now Yarbrough's going to move up and see if he can get draft away from the rest of the field, but Earnhardt's going to have different ideas about that.
That's right. Earnhardt saying, thank you very much. I'll have none of that. There's Earnhardt, the blue and yellow car, number 3 in third. Waltrip is in fourth, and Gant lies fifth. 19 cars in that lead draft, 16 cars in the lead lap as the Warpath moves to its 155th lap. 156 now complete of 188. 32 laps to go. Here is Mike Joy with a crew chief on Earnhardt's car.
Well, Ken, the timing of that caution flag may have changed race end strategy, but maybe not for the better. Richard, did that caution come out a lap too early for Dale Earnhardt?
Looks like it's going to be about 3 laps too early for us, you know, so we're going to fall back and try to use a little bit of the draft and see what it looks like toward the end of the race there now.
Well, that'll improve your fuel economy, but can you gain 3 laps that way?
I don't think so, but we're going to see what it looks like when we get down to the very end, you know.
Boy, are they hoping for a caution flag, Ken. One more before this race is over.
Oh, car trouble.
Here we got it.
Spinning, crashing. That is the Trevor Boyce car. In big trouble out of turn number 4. That's a hard way to get a caution.
That was not the way that Richard Childress wanted it. He's moving around. He's just cut the switches off. He's coming out of the car after taking a ride like that, getting out that quickly. Another indication of how well these automobiles are put together, because that was not an easy ride.
You know, Ned, when he reached up to turn the switches off, my first thought was he was trying to start the car to go again.
You're watching it live here on CBS. Let's look at it in replay as to what happened to Trevor Boyce, who's been running right up there all afternoon.
Okay, he gets hooked. It looks like that's Tommy Ellis' car right behind him, and they just touch enough, and it shoots his car down to the inside. The air gets underneath the car, flips it over backwards. It hits hard on the top, scoots up the end of pit road there on the top. It hits the grassed area, flips back over, all the way over and back on the wheels and up on the side, and lands back on the wheels once again like a big bucking horse.
Some rodeo ride for Trevor Boyce of Calgary.
You know, as the rodeo performer would say, he chose a good steed for that performance there, I'll tell you.
Stopping to tie his shoe. Let's take a look in replay.
They're coming off of turn 4. It looks like he drifts out just a little bit, Ken. Tommy Ellis on the outside of him there, and he hit just enough to send him around, and the air got underneath the car, sends it right upside down. Benny, what happens when that air gets under there?
I don't know, Ned.
Just the pressure?
At Daytona, watching this action that we're seeing on the screen reminds me so much of the Ricky Rudd crash from Daytona in the Busch Clash that we had in February. But, you know, and they paved that section down in Daytona because they felt like that the cars coming off the pavement onto the dirt made the car bounce and therefore got air under the cars. That car never reached the grass before it flipped over. Right. So that destroys that thought that they had.
They moved that wall back too, have they not?
They moved the wall back, and they paved that entire area thinking that was some of the problem. But as you notice,
when you think of the Randy LaJoie crash where he took that several others, like Harry Gant several years ago, you could see he was all ready for business, and I thought you were right. He was reaching around to see if he could get the thing fired. No, he was just turning it down. Oh, that's too bad for James Hilton as well as for Trevor Boyce. James Hilton, one of the really nice people.
Here they are again. As they come off of that turn, he went up into the groove there and just clipped the front bumper of Tommy Ellis's car number 4, and it doesn't take much at those kind of speeds. It shot him right down across the racetrack. As Phil Parsons there doing a very heads-up piece of driving, got slowed down enough, and Ben, as you say, just as he got to the edge of the pavement getting onto the grass is when he got airborne.
Tommy doesn't have to look for trouble. Trouble finds him. And that car just came up on him. And what are you going to do?
Nowhere he could go. Nothing he could do because there was cars right on his bumper and in that heavy traffic. Too bad for a young fellow who had perhaps driven the best race of his career here today. Trevor Boyce had stayed right up there in the thick of the battle all afternoon long, still in the lead lap.
160 laps will be completed. 188 this time by the start-finish line. Trevor Boyce has crashed. Let's go to Mike Joy.
For sale, slightly used, one Winston Cup race car. Also doubles as lawnmower when it comes through the infield here. This car, the passenger compartment is completely intact. Due to the NASCAR safety rules, Trevor climbed out of this unscathed. But the rest of the car, well, it's headed for the junkyard, and it certainly leads the question, with this potential, why do these fellas do this?
As you watch a major incident unfold at 200 miles per hour, it leaves an indelible memory imprint. Those terrifying seconds when a driver's life is in the balance, they're not easily forgotten. So how is it that moments after something as frightening as this, that other drivers go about their business, a business which could tap them next with such seeming ease?
It can't happen to me, even though I can show you a few places and broke feet and ribs and cut places. But basically, it always happens to the other fella, and it's just part of the sport that I have never really thought that much about.
Phil Parsons, brother of former Daytona winner Benny Parsons, survived this terrifying series of spirals last May at Talladega, Alabama, and he never looked back.
There's nothing like racing to me. It's in my blood. It's all I've ever wanted to do, and it's all I ever want to do. I'm not going to let a little thing like a little crash take it out of me.
For brother Benny, it was a different story, briefly.
I rode by, and the car was laying there on the roof, front burning. And, I mean, that's probably one of the worst moments of my life. I mean, it really was. It was horrendous. I mean, I thought I would be able to handle it. You know, I just thought I'd be able to, but I couldn't.
It doesn't happen often, but when it does, the top drivers mentally put it away. It's called racing attitude. On this level of the game, there is no room for any other attitude.
We are back live. They've just taken the green flag as they approach the first turn, and they're coming back to full speed another time. Ron Bouchard of Fitchburg, Massachusetts, the 1981 winner of the event, is riding in first place as they go down into the back straightaway. In second place is car 75, and that is the Dave Marcus car, the man who won this race many years ago from the pole position, the only man to ever win it from the pole. And then comes Darrell Waltrip in third. We're live with you at the Alabama International Motor Speedway. They will complete 162 of 188 laps this time by. And Jarrett, we now have 14 cars gathered up for the finish.
And the strategy of the pit stop, need for a pit stop for fuel has gone out the window. They can all go the distance now, so it is going to be some kind of a shootout right down to the end.
The frenzied action is all right here on the high banks of the Alabama International Motor Speedway. Ron Bouchard up in front. That second spot now belongs to Darrell Waltrip. The only two-time winner of the event goes to the inside. He fires up into turn number 3 and goes for the lead, and Baker in the Ford comes with him.
Baker has proven all afternoon that Ford has what it takes to get up front and to run among the front runners here all afternoon. Now, Waltrip really, he's shown some strength several different times, but now, as Benny said earlier, we're running for the roses now, and the cash is on the line, so he'll show what he has.
Across the line, Waltrip becomes the 16th different leader in the event. If more than 10 cars finish in the lead lap, that would be a record for this race. Looks like we're going to have it. There you see them. Out of 2. Back for another time at first comes Baker, and with him comes Bouchard, and Waltrip is falling back. Waltrip made that move in the last lap of the International Race of Champions, which you saw at the top of our program today, that gave him the win, and he came from 4th or 5th.
Baker does not want to be in this position, Ken, because he lost in Daytona a couple of years being the leader and leading the race for the last 20, 30 laps, and Cale Yarborough slingshot by. He does not want to be in front, but I think he felt like Darrell Waltrip was just a bit too slow for him, and therefore he passed Darrell.
Now you see Earnhardt in 4th, and you see Labonte up to 5th.
Sometimes they'll make a pass of that sort, too, hoping that the car that they're bringing with them might just give them a good shot, that they might move out 8 or 10 car lengths and hopefully break the draft from the other cars back there. But as close as these cars have been running here all day long, I don't see that happening. They get 4 or 5 car lengths like we see right there on Waltrip, but I think they'll be able to pick that up and pick right back up through the front runners.
Bill Elliott's car that started outside of the front row back in 8th or 9th, right behind Cale Yarborough. Here they are, back for the tri-oval. 200 miles an hour. Lined up on parade. 8th position. Elliott right in front of him. Yarborough. Now Yarborough takes a meander up the outside. Allison blocked that effort. Back straightaway. Top 9 all together. Here's Bouchard riding right to Baker. Laps complete, 166 of 188 this time by.
Again, there have been some awfully good finishes here at Talladega, at Daytona, Charlotte, wherever. Last Sunday at Pocono, Pennsylvania, tremendous finish among 3 cars battling for the lead. But never in the history of the sport have we had this many cars running this strong, this near the end of the race. I think that we're going to be in for history.
And all with full tanks. There's always been that fallout with pit stops and green flag conditions. That is not the case here.
Well, certainly the fans don't want to go away. They better stay glued to their TV sets, as these fans here are just standing up. They haven't had much sitting time here this afternoon. They didn't really need these seats here today.
You know, I was thinking of that a moment ago. They paid good money for those seats and didn't use them all day.
They'll spend half an hour after just sitting in them trying to collect themselves. Baker, he's led what, 15 times, Ned?
15 times for 27 laps, and that makes him the biggest leader in the event. Normally, the top winner, you know, he's going to lead half of the race.
Beginning to switch the positions. You can see Waltrip getting anxious. He comes up to 3rd. Let's go to Chris Economaki.
Well, Ken, there's smiles up and down pit road here. All the mechanics and crew chiefs have done their work. They all say now that it's up to the driver. There's enough gas to go to the end. The tires are good, and it's a driver's going to win this race, not some piece of strategy or some work by a crew chief. And they're all sitting here relaxing, knowing that their man is capable of winning. Thank you, Ken. 3rd place car is now Waltrip, the man who's won it 2 times. Darrell Waltrip, can you be the first driver to win the Talladega 500 3 times?
Well, I've won it twice, and I almost won it 2 other times. And I don't know, the last couple of years, Ron Bouchard beat me at the start-finish line by foot. And last year, Earnhardt beat me at the start-finish line by about the same distance. So had a shot at winning both of those races, and that would have given me 4 wins.
Right now, he's falling back. Earnhardt pulling up.
Yes, the car doesn't seem to be that strong. He got up in front there a moment ago, but he wasn't able to stay up there. As Benny pointed out, Baker wanted to get back in front of him because he didn't think Waltrip was leading him fast enough. Waltrip's able to stay in there in 4th place right now, but it just doesn't seem to have the muscle, Benny.
He doesn't seem to have the muscle to stay up front with those good cars, with the Bakers, the Bouchards, and the Yarboroughs. You know, Cale Yarborough, the pole sitter, is back in the 6th or 7th spot right now, trying his best to get through traffic. But he's got 6 good cars almost as fast as he's right in front of him. He can't make it.
169 this time by. 15 cars in the lead lap. Bobby Hillin out of Midland, Texas, 20 years old, is still up here. 15 cars in the lead lap. He's the 15th. 14th right now is Ricky Rudd. Then Tommy Ellis, we got an engine
there's a smoker down on the
Looks
inside.
Like Arrington.
Buddy Arrington.
Chrysler.
He gets it low on the racetrack. He
no
might not
caution
be
yet.
putting anything out on the track, but he made a very smart move. As the leaders were coming around on the outside, he got it down to the low side of the racetrack, and now it's coasting on around. They ran that last lap at well over 200 miles per hour. So they're, what we say up in North Carolina, getting on with the getting on down here.
170 laps this time by will have been completed of the 188. There's the business end of the Talladega 500.
It's Kyle Petty down on the inside. He's been running at reduced speed for some time now. He had an overheating problem early in the race, lost a number of laps in the pit, so he's just trying to ride it out, get whatever points he can.
Nearly $500,000 at stake. And the divvy gets pretty small after that 1st and 2nd place for these fellows. You have these big, high buck teams. Ricky Rudd's sister there.
No, that was one of the other crew members that he thought it was Carolyn Rudd. But,
I was watching the race myself.
Really don't pay attention to things like that.
Car number 21, Baker, stays there. Bouchard right on the rear bumper.
He has run a good race here today. Very good race. The car is working well down on the inside.
Let's get a report on Trevor Boyce.
I'm with Dr. Dave Fretz outside the Hardwick Care Center. How is Trevor? How is Trevor Boyce?
Trevor's fine. A few bumps and bruises. He'll be sore tomorrow, but no permanent problems.
Apparently, Ken, he bumped the number 4 car, got the car a little bit sideways, and then it took off when it hit the grass, but Trevor's resting comfortably, and he's talking with his crew chief about going up to Canada to run a stock car race tomorrow.
Buddy Arrington, you saw his car pull into the pits just as we left to join Mike Joy. Bouchard going for first place. Ron Bouchard back to first. Baker to second. Probably that's what Baker wants.
And Bouchard might be testing whether going into turn 3 where he made that pass, is that the place he can do it? Now he wants to see, can I stay out front till we get back to the start-finish line? Of course, there's going to be a lot of other things come into play with that many cars still running there at the end. This time he is going to be able to stay up front, but there'll be a lot of other jockeying going on behind him, and that could affect how he comes across the start-finish line.
Bill Elliott back to 8th, now sweeps under. Bobby Allison closes up on car number 28. Cale Yarborough, as he continues to make his charge and try to win the Talladega 500. 175 laps complete, 13 to go. Next on CBS, the Hartford Open. Peter Jacobson still leading. Mark O'Mara in that contest. Bill Pretzer maintaining third. Right now, it continues to be a shuffle here. And Bill Elliott has pulled up into fourth. Meanwhile, a change for the lead. Buddy Baker is going back in front. Cale Yarborough trying to pull beneath the car number 3 of Dale Earnhardt. And there lies number 9, Elliott, who's come from 8th up to 4th. Is there an ideal place to be when it comes down to the last few laps, Bill Elliott?
It's hard to say, depending on how many cars are left in the lead lap, because that has always changed the situation. If there's only 2 cars left, being second more than likely it's a place to be. But if there's possibly 4 or 5 cars left, leading the race may be where you need to be, because if you get all those other guys racing among themselves, you can possibly get out of the way from them.
For all the marbles, Elliott has been riding down on the inside Benny Parsons and seems to make that car work as well on the bottom side of the track as any car here.
He has been as good on the inside as anyone. Terry Labonte just a moment ago passed several cars on the inside and went to second place. He's in the catbird seat right now, but the catbird seat keeps shifting every lap. Someone else has a different perspective at it.
Now, Ron Bouchard has gone from 1st to 11th in the last 2 laps.
Leader, Baker. Second, Terry Labonte. Third is Earnhardt. There's been one dominating factor up in that front 5. It has seemed to be Earnhardt, but he just hasn't had it to close. Playing it close, is that what he has? And there's Yarborough lying 4th. Almost touching out of turn 2 at over 200 miles an hour.
It'll be 10 laps to go when they come back in, so everybody is trying to jockey now. They will be doing this for the next 10 laps, trying to get themselves in position. Now, Bill Elliott said it'd be different if you got 4 or 5 cars in the lead lap as to your strategy on that last lap. Nobody considered that there might be 14 of them.
66 lead changes. One more will tie the record for this race, held by, well, it goes back to the 1978 year when Lenny Pond won it. They had 67 lead changes. When we can tie it with one more lead change for this event, there is an overall record that's considerably higher based on the race back in May. Here's a report from Chris Economac.
I just asked this man, Glenn Wood, how it looked with this driver in the lead. He gave me 3 words. He says, 28's a coming.
Well, of course, Cale Yarborough used to drive for that man, Glenn Wood, and he knows how tenacious he can be at times, and he has seen that car run so many times this year. As Benny Parsons mentioned at the top of the broadcast, it has been dominant in practically every race that it has run.
Out of turn number 4, back for the tri-oval another time. Baker is getting himself about a 5-car length advantage. Earnhardt is in second, Cale is in third, Labonte is in fourth, Allison is in fifth, Lake Speed is in 6th, Waltrip is in 7th. Bill Elliott is following well back, and look at number 4. Here comes Tommy Ellis out of Virginia. Just doing a grand job in this McClure car, staying right in there. Harry Gant up in front of him, Ron Bouchard on his right flank. Out in front it is still Baker. Baker draws away by 5 car lengths. Bill Elliott right there behind Tommy Ellis, who now puts the pedal down.
He has done a great job of just hanging right up there with those leaders all day long. He's never had this much experience in running in the draft for that long of a period of time because he's never had a car that run this long.
Sure not like running Langley Field. Here he is back to the tri-oval. Here's Chris Economaki.
Well, we just asked when we saw Grover and Buddy Baker's pit crew smiling. I said, what's so funny? He said, Buddy just asked what to do.
There's no help from down there at this point of the race, believe me.
You know, they've got to be 1,000 things going through their minds out there. They got to keep their mind on what they're doing, you know, while they're running at 200 miles an hour, not run over somebody or get too close to somebody and put themselves out of it. But they got to also be thinking, well, what am I going to do to get myself in position to win this race? Every one of them knows they're there, that they got the chance to win the race. The cars run fast enough, as Benny said earlier. They've got all the ingredients there, but just getting themselves in the right position as we get down right at the end of this race.
Baker drawing away just a little bit here by about half a car length. Laps complete. As they come down across the start-finish line, sweeping past Kyle Petty coming out of the pit. 181 complete of 188. Trying the bottom of the racetrack. Terry Labonte, number 44, the Billy Hagan car. Crew chief Dale Inman goes into second place. The Waddell Wilson car. The Harry Ranier machine of Cale Yarborough lying fourth. And sandwiching himself in there so neatly is Labonte. Now here he comes, driving to the inside. And Earnhardt comes with him.
I'll tell you, that looked strong. When he pulled up coming off of turn 2, slipped right up about 3 cars, and then decided to go ahead and take the lead and did it and moved right out 3 or 4 car lengths in front.
They may have Cale hung out to dry. No, he got back in. I thought maybe that now they're going to pass the dominant car in the race. I thought was going to go. He's going on back. They got the 28 car going backwards.
Allison pulls up. Bobby Allison becomes a factor once again as he goes to 4th. Baker lies 3rd. Laps running down. And there are 6 to go. 6 laps remaining. We're coming to you live from Talladega, Alabama. You are inside Bill Elliott's car as he begins to make his charge. Final moments of this race at 200 miles per hour. It's being decided. Terry Labonte out of Corpus Christi, Texas, is now leading. Dale Earnhardt, former national champion, winner of this event a year ago, in the 2nd position.
There's Earnhardt's wife, Teresa. She naturally is excited. She wants to see him win two in a row here at Talladega.
Buddy Baker in that 3rd spot. No one has ever won it back-to-back. Only Waltrip has won it twice. 5 to go as they reach the line. Terry Labonte. They have prepped this car for a considerable amount of time, getting it set for this race. Feeling it was one of the most important races for them this year. Took some extra time. Will it pay off? Meanwhile, that Richard Childress car, the number 3 for Dale Earnhardt, that Chevrolet lurks in 2nd place.
I think he's sitting exactly where he wants to be right now, Ken. Of course, he's also got to take in consideration that Buddy Baker's sitting right there on his lap. I think Buddy is pretty well where he wants to be because he knows Earnhardt's going to make a move, and he figures he'll pick, when they get side by side, he'll pick the draft for both of them up, and if they're still in that position on the last lap, be able to draft past. Where Earnhardt figures, well, those others back there are going to be racing with each other, that it'll slow them down. Here's Labonte's got to be thinking the same thing. So.
Here's Mike Joy. 4 laps to go.
Does Dale Earnhardt tell you he's in the spot where he wants to be?
Do what?
Is he in the spot he wants to be, does he say?
I don't know. We ain't talked lately. We just letting him drive. He's driving as hard as he can right now, I'm sure.
And they're counting the gas drop by drop. You guys may not make it.
Oh, we'll make it now. We got the gas made. It's just, it depends on no telling who may win a race right now. It's going to be an interesting finish.
Crew's done their job. It's all up to the driver.
Earnhardt looks low. Goes down to the bottom. Actually, he stayed stable in 44, pulled up a little. Now here they are out of 4. What about Allison, Benny Parsons? Is he where he wants to be?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think he's quite up as far as he'd like to be. Buddy Baker's spot, 3rd spot, I think anybody would take that spot or Dale Earnhardt's. But any other spot than that, I don't think that's where they want to be. Do you, Dan?
Other than maybe Labonte, because he's got to know that Baker is going to make a move on Earnhardt, which might slow both of them down a little bit. So the front position might not be a bad position to be in. Other than those positions, I don't know.
Cale is 5th. Back straight away.
Bouchard has dropped off the pace. Ronnie Bouchard has dropped off the pace after a tremendous run today, Ken.
Waltrip is 6th. Blake Speed is in 7th. Harry Gant is in 8th. Ellis is in 9th. Bill Elliott back to 10th. Getting down to the finish. Show and tell time at the Alabama International Motor Speedway.
Well, it'll be just a fraction over 5 miles to go.
2 laps to go. Joining us for the Greater Hartford, there's 2 laps remaining here in Talladega, Alabama. Dale Inman, crew chief for Terry Labonte. Watching that slim lead, knowing that Earnhardt is getting ready to shoot his shot. And here comes the field closing. A record number of cars clustered together, ready to fight it out at 200 miles an hour. And Harry Gant on the inside. The Bandit in the Haldane Burt Reynolds car, number 33, begins to make his move low on the track. He pulls alongside. He's fighting with Buddy Baker now, trying for 3rd.
Now, that's one of the better things that can happen to those front 2 cars. Tommy Ellis trying to come up on the inside. They were on the radio trying to get Terry Labonte to get out of the lead, but with all that jockeying going on behind him, he still might be in the best place if they come around for the white flag.
1 lap to go. As this tremendous group of cars thunders into turn number 1. Terry Labonte in front. Earnhardt is there in 2nd. Then in 3rd, it's Buddy Baker on the outside. Bobby Allison is in 4th. Harry Gant is on the inside in 5th. At 200 miles an hour, all of these cars contesting for the lead. Earnhardt closes ground. He's going to try the high side. Earnhardt going to turn 3 at 200 miles an hour. Winds it up, fires it in there. And it's Earnhardt going in front. Baker to 2nd, Labonte back to 3rd. It is still Allison in 4th. And now on the inside, Terry Labonte begins to move. Labonte back to 2nd as they switch positions and shuffle down out of the turn. Dale
Break for Earnhardt. They're racing for 2nd back there and open the door for Earnhardt.
As they come out of the tri-oval, headed for the line. The question will be, who will be 2nd? The checkered flag belongs today to the Richard Childress crew. Dale Earnhardt has done it again. The first man to ever win it 2 years in a row. Dale Earnhardt's crowd on pit road ecstatic as they've just done it. The first team to ever win the Talladega 500, 2 solid straight times. A brilliant maneuver by Earnhardt in the last moments of the race.
It was a very brilliant move. Now, he drove Bud Moore's car to victory here a year ago, same sponsor, but Earnhardt has won in 2 different make cars. It was a Ford last year, a Chevrolet here this year.
Let's take a look again as well, Ned, for 2nd place as they come to the line. Here's Earnhardt, and as they began to struggle for 2nd, it gave just a bit of an advantage to Dale Earnhardt, who had made his move on the outside, going to turn number 3, broken away from the draft, and took himself to 1st place. And in for 2nd place, hello.
He looked like Labonte. Labonte maybe just by a few inches.
So that's the story of the 1984 Talladega 500. This man, Dale Earnhardt, is successful and the first man to ever win it 2 years back-to-back. For Ned Jarrett, Chris Economaki, and Mike Joy, this is Ken Squire saying so long from the Alabama International Motor Speedway.